on the right section, turned it on the wrong scene, but that's okay. We did it anyway. We're just testing you guys, making sure everybody's there, paying attention. Hi, folks. What's going on? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and we're here to talk about the fact that you guys are crazy, and you subscribe to the channel a lot, and we hit 100K. And you deserve the sound for that. So thank you to everybody who's here in the channel, hanging out. And yeah, we just kind of, again, I did that sort of goofy live stream while Black Friday shopping from Walmart this morning with horrible connection, and all that stuff. But, yeah, I wanted to go ahead and do something and just at least address it all and say hi and thank you to everybody because we did it. I was originally trying to get the 100K for Gen Con. That didn't end up happening. And then I thought I was going to get it for PAX Unplugged. And then it was just it was 2 weeks away. And we were several hundred subscribers away. And then I don't know if it was Dragonlance or what. But you guys are crazy. And you came out in droves to support the channel. And we did it. I can't believe it. It's crazy. Lixon, wish me luck for the first session as I DM for the first time. Oh, good luck. Thank you to everybody for all of the well wishes. Also, I saw there was is there a donation or did I make that up? I might have made that up. Either way, thank you, everybody. Hot tub stream when I get in shape and I get a hot tub. That's a future purchase after I redo my whole back deck. My friend and I are starting early stages to write our own monster manual. Do you have any advice on things we should look out for besides PDF bookmarks? Well, I'm glad someone's listening about the PDF bookmarks, so that's important. Geez. Well, thank you, Taryn. Oh, man. Thank you. 200K? Let's go. That would be wild. As far as things to look out for a monster manual, I'd say, if you're really at a loss for what to do, I would say look at kind of the things that are lacking. I mean, I've done a handful of top 10 videos on monsters, like top 10 oozes, top 10 this, top 10 that. And some of them, it was not a top 10. It was a top 5 because there wasn't enough monsters to make that happen, So if you're we need some stuff, and you're like, oh man, there's only 13 oozes in all of 5e. Well, I would probably go with some oozes. Anyway, let's see. Congrats, so glad you've been. Thank you for being since 26K with the old setup and the 30K live stream. Yeah, it's been a wild couple of years. The pandemic, as unfortunate and bad as it has been for the world, has been actually pretty good for the channel. Thank you. Yeah, that's probably someone who just logged in from the start and they saw the sound was off. It's all good. But yeah, I posted about it, but I just wanted to show off because I can, and my wife is amazing. So she made me cookies for the stream. So we've got this cookie right here, this sweet Nerd Immersion cookie that she made for me. We've got our wonderful orange D20 cookie. We have a dragon, because dragon. And then it'll be really hard to hold all of them up, but we're going to try. 100K cookies. Where am I going to hang the play button? That's important. I think it's going to go right here, right on this side of the wall, so that it's it'll be, no matter where I end up moving on the screen, my head won't block it. The play button could be right on display. And then if we get another one at what is it, 1 million, you get the gold one. It'll just go right below it or right next to it. But that's a long ways off. So, well, thank you, everybody. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be the breaking news guy on the Dungeons and Dragons scene. But, you take what you get, right? Yeah, I still have some more Dragonlance coverage to do. We will do that in the next couple days here. We got magic items and a few other things. Thank you, Steven Gar, for your well wishes. I also wanted to show off the cookies. One, to show off because my wife is awesome, but two, to like tell you I'm going to be eating cookies while we're doing this live stream. But yeah, now the important part is, do I have enough time between now and next Friday to find a venue and set up a nerd immersion party or some sort of gathering for the folks that are going to be be in person present at PAX Unplugged? I don't know if that's possible, but and unfortunately, for those of you who have met me in person, you do know that I do all sorts of swag. I haven't promoted this in a while, but I have a ton of these Nerd Immersion stickers, and I actually give these away to people. If you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope to my PO box that's in the description of every video, I'll just send you stickers right back. So like, you send me the envelope, I put stickers in it, shoot them back to you. Thank you, Cap Sam. Appreciate it. But I usually, if you meet me in person and I'm fully stocked, I have Nerd Immersion mechanical pencils. I don't think I have any. Do I have any in arm's reach? I don't. Mechanical pencils, the stickers. I have drawstring bags. I have hand sanitizer, branded hand sanitizer, dice, enamel pins. The coffee mugs were a really big one that everybody loved at Gen Con. I had a limited number of coffee mugs to give out. So I am going to be restocking coffee mugs, but they unfortunately won't be here in time for Unplugged, so they'll have to be sometime in the new year. And then I'm also going to be doing possibly patches. That's a new one we're looking at. We'll get to that comment. And then I'm going to be trying to do, not necessarily, probably not as nice as this. Mess, I need to redo this desk. But like some kind of branded notebook. There's dust going everywhere from this thing. But yeah, like some sort of branded notebook. Because my thought process is, you could have all Nerd Immersion gear. You've got a die, you've got a notebook, you've got a pencil. You can play D&D and be fully Nerd Immersioned out, which would be a cool thing to be able to do. There's the mukbang streamer comment. We almost did that one time. This is years ago. So it's no secret. Feel however you feel about it, but I love White Castle. And several of the people that I usually used to play with on Tuesday had never had White Castle, so we ordered a Crave crate, which is 100 burgers, and we were going to split it 5 ways, so 20 burgers a piece. And we actually did that before we ended up streaming on a Tuesday night. And we contemplated streaming us eating all of the burgers, and I was like, this is a thing that exists. We could do this. Then I was like, I don't know if I want to have that content on the channel, so we decided not to. Oh, let's see, Chef Kronos, you have helped me be the best. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Congrats, first found out when you're covering Theros. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that people were able to get some stuff. I don't know. It sounds like from what people are saying, the links that I had posted out for Amazon, a lot of people ended up getting stuff, but then it also seems like it may have tanked the stock on that, which is, I guess, good and bad. I mean, I don't know if it was just a limited time thing, like it was just a Thursday only deal or what it was, but I'm glad people were able to build out their personal library and collection from those links, which is pretty cool. Actually helped me a lot learning how to DM. Oh, well, thank you, Toxic, my channel. Thank you, Toxic. Appreciate it. Would you be willing to playtest some of the monsters and provide feedback? Ace Wheelie, yeah, I'm going to say, so I never turned down the opportunity to, to playtest and look at stuff. I only have so much bandwidth, but I will absolutely give it a shot if I can. Thank you, Jeremy. Yep, news seems to be my jam. Mukbang apocalypse potion candy tins. Oh God. If I'm gonna do like a mukbang kind of a stream, I feel like I don't want to do it alone. You know, like I don't want to just do it me eating stuff. Like I want to have a group of people, so we can all share in the misery. Um, like I don't know, this would be a stupid thing to do at like Gen Con. Like get a group of my friends together and just be like, yeah, we all ordered a bunch of like pizzas, or well, we're in the Midwest, let's not order pizzas. I don't know, you know what I mean. And then just be like, well, let's do Q&A between 5 or 6 people that are community creators, and we'll just stuff our faces with a bunch of food. Um, did they have a stat for Lord Soth? They did, and it is a unique stat for Lord Soth in the new book. I covered it in the Dragonlance live stream that I did, where we kind of did the flip through. I will be probably 2 to 3 videos from now doing a coverage of the monsters, so you will get the Lord Soth stat block in that. So, um, yeah, DM me on Discord. That'll be perfect. Thank you, Mango. Appreciate it. Good to see you. 1111, make a wish for more D&D stuff. My 1111 wish is that this coming Monday, when I'll be working from home, hopefully, the newest Unearthed Arcana will drop for the One D&D playtest, and it will be for the warrior classes. I'm really hopeful for that because I really want to see what they're going to do and how they're going to change. Because the warrior classes, for those you don't remember, is the barbarian, the fighter, and the monk. And in my mind, you could probably leave barbarian alone. Like, you don't even have to touch it. I would probably leave it like it is. But I do wonder if this concept of the fighter classes, the class group of fighters, if they're going to kind of, well, one, does Battlemaster exist? So first of all, we know they're going to pick one subclass to give with each thing, right? I imagine it's likely going to be either the Berserker or the Totem Barbarian. It'll likely either be the Battlemaster. I'm thinking maybe just the Champion, though, Fighter, and then probably like Open Palm Monk. And then I'm hoping that possibly we ditch Battlemaster completely, and some of the Battlemaster style maneuvers are kind of just a thing that's baked in to the core warrior group classes, and that's kind of their deal, right? They can do certain maneuvers, and that kind of sets them apart from the priests or the experts. It kind of is a unique thing they can do. The only tricky part is that I don't think that's going to happen is because we already know that like the ranger is like kind of a warrior class, and they don't have access to that kind of stuff, and I don't know if they're just waiting to reveal it. But I do feel like 5th edition Barbarian is really solid as it is currently. But I don't know. And honestly, if they really want to do, if they're feeling real confident and they want to knock something out of the park, they should go for the 4 elements monk, and they should have a completely crazy overhaul. You could win a lot of people over if they redo the monk and make it better, and then they also did the 4 elements monk and then also made it good. But they'll likely just do open palm because it's kind of like the main identity monk, if you will. War is going to be the last group playtested. Is there rumors about that, or is that just your thoughts? Because if there's a rumor, I'd love to know where it's founded. I'd obviously dive into that for sure. Totally banking on maneuvers being a warrior shared feature. Fighting styles just don't really work for a monk. Yeah, Terry, you're not wrong. But I do think you could. It depends on if they incorporate like the Tasha's Cauldron fighting styles from the get-go, then you could possibly have decent fighting styles for monks, like the Blind Sight one, things like that. But I get it. I'm hopeful for the monk. I'm hoping the monk gets a D10 hit die. I'd like to see that change. I think if we're keeping it in the realm of 5th edition stuff, I'd love to see like the deflect missiles ability be like deflect attacks, so you could also use it on melee attacks, not just ranged attacks. I think that would be an interesting change. I think that alone could do a lot to make the monk a little bit on the stronger side. Although I've had plenty of positive experience playing a monk in 2 campaigns that went to level 15. So maybe I just roll well and my DM rolls poorly or what have you, but I have no real complaints. My only one is that key points are used for everything, but you do get them all back on a short rest. So it is what it is. Spelljammer minis. We could do some Spelljammer mini unboxings. We did all of them. Uh, we did all the ones. These guys. I still have all the boxes on the floor here. But I do have all the ship scale miniatures in the other room. We could do that if you guys want. I also have some Pathfinder minis we could do. I have a lot of minis actually if we want to do some unboxings. That's a thing. We could do some and then I'll just clip it out and make that for a video for later. Where should pick up more fighting styles as they level? That could be interesting. I'm 2 minutes back, by the way, on 1.5 speed. No worries. Deflect attack definitely needs to be a thing. That's so much of the drunken. Yeah, it's just, I think about it, and you run into, as someone who's played a monk, again, in 2 campaigns that went to level 15, the concept of deflect missiles, it's so hard as a DM to not metagame it, because, like, you know, when you're fighting a monk, that if you shoot them with, like, a bow or a missile of some kind, that more than likely it's not going to damage them to the amount of damage that it can do, because usually it's not doing a ton of damage, unless maybe it's like an enemy sneak attacking your monk with an arrow, and then the deflect missiles actually is impactful. But, like, for the most part, I feel like it is hard for the DM to not just be like, okay, well, they're going to shoot the other character next to you instead of you. And I know that, like, maybe that's just a situational thing, but, if they're going to do it every time, you may, as the DM, may be like, all right, let's just shoot the other guy. But if it's deflect attack, you're still going to attack these people, and then that gives you the opportunity. And, even if it doesn't have, like, you can throw the missile back part, and you could do, like, the whole redirect the attack away, which could be interesting. Maybe that's a key point, or however you want to work that out. But I think deflect attack just adds to the survivability. If you are supposed to be engaged in melee all the time, survivability is something you need. And again, maybe you're lucky and you roll high stats, so you have the decent unarmored defense. But deflect attack and maybe a D10 hit die goes a long way. So, anyway. It is a good subclass ability, I'd say, for the Drunken Master, but I also feel like it could be just a base monk thing. And then maybe the Drunken Master, that's something we could think about, right? Maybe deflect attack is an ability that the base monk has, but Drunken Master allows them to redirect the attack at an enemy, and that's like it kind of bolsters that ability that you already have. That could be interesting. I like that. Yeah, deflecting spells. It would be, come on, you can't tell me it wouldn't be cool to, like, get hit with, like, a scorching ray and be like, just, like, zap it away, wax on, wax off a scorching ray away from your monk. I feel like older editions you could do that. Yeah, I agree. Improvised weapons are monk weapons. Yeah, that is something I absolutely agree for every Drunken Master. I think it just makes sense. It's just, that's like quintessential Jackie Chan, right? Anything is a weapon. Have I ever played Darkest Dungeon? I have not. Mountain Dew, Joey. I'm gonna eat this Nerd Immersion cookie now. Oh, so good. She puts flavor into icing. So good. Anyway. Okay. Well, I'll add Darkest Dungeon to the list. I got a whiteboard over here. Hang on. Darkest Dungeon. Exclamation point underline. All right, it's on the list. Falcon. I'll ask my wife. She got the 3D printed cookie cutter for nerd immersion. But oh, mango, thanks, man. Yeah, miss. I don't know if you saw. We got the D20. We got the dragon. You know, doing the whole thing. I think I showed you one of the beholders she did a while ago. She did a beholder one. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, thank you, Jack. I don't really have a plan for this stream. Just kind of hang out and chat and do whatever. But so far tonight, we're fixing the 5e monk and possibly speculating about the 1 D&D monk. There was a request to unbox some minis. I don't know. We can do whatever, guys. People are telling me to play Darkest Dungeon. I could bust out some Solasta, Crown of the Magister. We could build a whole party together and go on an adventure, try out some of their new stuff. I could pull up some of the solo adventuring stuff and do with the solo adventuring stuff. We could build a character and play through one of the solo adventure handbook things and do the whole one person plays a game, and it would basically be the equivalency of like Twitch plays Pokemon, but it'd be YouTube plays D&D, except we're not actually physically controlling the characters, you know? Which fighting styles would help the monk most, assuming they get them now as warriors? I think the blind sight one would help the monks a lot. It's not protection, because protection is the one with the shield. It's the one where you can kind of like block or take an attack for a party member. But that's actually kind of what we're talking about with the deflect attacks one, but you need a weapon. It's like you roll a d8 as a reaction, you reduce the damage that somebody could take. That could work as just a base monk feature. There's the unarmed strike one, yeah, that gives you basically a d8 hit die at level 1. That's a good one. There's not much more, honestly. I don't remember what... there's a throwing one. You could do the throwing one, I guess. Yeah, what the hell is it called? Oh, because I was going to... I liked the concept. I was looking at playing a monk and using one of the Tasha's Cauldron ones, because I thought it would really cool to be like a monk and wield the quarterstaff, right? Be kind of traditional, right? In the concept of wielding a quarterstaff. But you could do the one new fighting style. Interception, it's called, right? When a creature you can see hits a target other than you, within 5 feet of you with an attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage the target takes by a d10 plus your proficiency bonus. You must be wielding a shield or a simpler martial weapon to use this reaction. In my head, I liked the concept of using like the quarterstaff to like take the arrow from the enemy or like knock something out of the air. But I'm also realizing it says when a creature you can see hits a target other than you with an attack. So that quantifies a spell attack. So you could actually knock a scorching ray out of the air using that feature, in theory. But that kind of ties into the concept of what we're thinking about, possibly the monk having like a deflect attack ability. That could also be a cool way to level up that ability. Like it starts off, you can only deflect attacks that are coming at you, but possibly later on, it can be like an improvement of that is you can also deflect attacks that are next to an ally within 5 feet of you. So like they're standing next to you, and you can kind of do the whole like monk catch the arrow out of the air, or the poison dart out of the air from your ally. That'd be cool. Have I seen any good solo adventure online games for free? I feel like it'd be cool for DMs if you could make up base versions of classes and then run them up versus enemies. Yeah, actually, I was just talking about that. We I think I did a review on a DM's Guild product called the Solo Adventurer's Handbook, and it's just basically a whole thing for you to run yourself. Obviously, you can't metagame. You guess you could metagame yourself, but that'd be kind of silly, because who wins in that area? Your magical item / weapon list for Ranger Rogue really helped out my Gloomstalker. Oh man, well, glad I could help. Backpack monk, specifically for catching darts, sounds strong. Yeah. You think you'd be doing more homebrew class reviews? Yeah, it's just timing, right? It's a lot's been happening, and I'm like super behind on emails. I've got a lot of people been asking about some stuff that I'm trying to work on. People have been asking me to do top 10 magic item lists for popular homebrew classes, like the pugilist comes up a lot. I'm still gonna do obviously sorcerer, warlock, wizard. I'll do the blood hunter because everybody basically considers that to be like the 14th class. But like I said, I'm taking this Tuesday off from top 10s, and I'm going to do a top 10 like shopping list, shopping guide thing because I want to give everybody enough time to still be able to purchase the things if they're interested in it. Last year I did one and I felt I was too close to the holidays, so it kind of ruined it. Um, Technically, yes, thank you, Kugo. Every video is a TED Talk, accurate. Let's see. Every 60 seconds. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I like Blood Hunter. I played one. My sister's playing one in one of the campaigns we're in, and they can be a lot of fun. But I still just don't feel like they are unique enough. Like, Blood Hunter could have been like a fighter subclass, realistically, or even a warlock. You know, it didn't really need to be its own class, but I get it. Thank you, Kugo. Thank you. When this is over, I'm probably gonna jump on Destiny. So if you want to play some games, I'll be around. Um, you can go, you know, admire the Elixir water and all the garden that it has. Now let me pull up the DM's Guild, and I'll show you guys that solo adventurers thing I was talking about. Where is it? No, when Dragonland stuff will be available to be posted on the DM's Guild on the 6th of December. So that's cool too. They also have Cyber Monday and Black Friday deals. Oh, on the DM's Guild. Oh wow. There's actually some really good stuff. Really good stuff on the DM's Guild right now. I'm gonna show you guys in a sec here. Hang on. No, it's a nerd immersion cookie, my friend. It's part of the 100K cookies that my wife made for me. Um, let's see. My preferred race class is definitely Paladin, and I haven't really played a Paladin in a while, but for the longest time it was half-elf Paladin was my go-to. But if I'm being honest, it's purely because of the ability score improvements. I like Tiefling Paladin, I think is an interesting one. But I like something that could get the Paladin a little bit of a range aspect to it. It'd be cool. Yeah, homebrew classes can be rough. I have one. I've talked about it here on the channel a couple of times, and I keep saying I'm going to put it out, and then I don't. I'm actually thinking about possibly just using Teespring and releasing it as a digital product, since I already have like my merch through that store. So how much of an ass do you think asking a DM to replace the New Moon enchantment meta magic bombard with evocation? Well, I mean, if they don't have D&D Beyond and they have the physical book, it'll be real easy to convince them to do evocation because that's what the physical book says. I'd allow it in my game. You can clip this and say, Ted from Nerd Immersion said he would allow a evocation swap with the enchantment for the New Moon. I'd also give you Moonbeam because it just makes sense, but either way. Any advice for a newbie blood hunter then? If you can swing the newer version that lets you use intelligence, I would do that because more often than not, a lot of people are focused on the wisdom aspect and the perception and all that. So having somebody focused on intelligence is good. And then it really depends on the subclass that you pick for the blood hunter. Make sure you're always come up with make sure how you're always applying your rights to your weapons. That's huge. To do that right out the gate basically every morning. There's no downside to doing it the first thing when you wake up. But yeah, I haven't really had a chance to play with the updated version that Matt put out. I played probably 5 years ago, maybe. Cookies, yes. Definitely end up buying Dungeon Wall terrain from Amazon. This would be helpful. And on Hero Forge, they got a deal for the STL files. Yeah, if you have a 3D printer, Hero Forge does like a Black Friday sale to get STL files for like $3. So that's a good deal as well. Have I mastered skill challenges or know someone who has? Are we talking about like offense rolling like skill challenges in D&D? Is that what we're talking about? I think most people only think of Eastern monks. That's true. Very few people think of like Knights Templar and Western monks. But I feel like that also gets so close to cleric, and I think that's probably why. Any race you want to try but haven't played yet? I really want to try the Plasmoid because I just think it's so goofy. I don't know. I just think it would be a lot of fun. I also don't know how I would role play a Plasmoid. Like I'm literally a glob of ooze. But that could be really fun, I think. Would you be willing to give input on homebrew version of the Lunar Sorcerer? Again, I'm willing to give input on literally anything. I just need the time. That's the biggest issue. And, the more, 100K and all this kind of stuff does get me closer and closer to this being my day job as opposed to my actual day job, which means like most of the time, unless I can squeak meetings or videos out during the day, that's why now, the benefit of having this clock here is you'll know when I make the videos, which is why a lot of them happen in the wee hours of the morning, because during a week, typically, I'm working 9 to 5, and then I'm doing family stuff, and then it's Nerd Immersion. If Nerd Immersion was my day job from 9 to 5, I could do so much more. I'd have, like, the time where I could feel guilty about reviewing somebody's subclass while I'm supposed to be at work. I could be doing that as my job, stuff like that. Slimer from the real Ghostbusters would be interesting, as would a human Ditto. Thank you, Oregon, for the kind words. I work for a utility company. I'm an emergency manager for a electric and gas utility, which is why a lot of the times you'll see when there's like a big storm or a hurricane coming through, like I go dark for a while because I'm doing night shifts, and more often than I do get stuck on the 12 to 16 hour night shifts. So like I just am out of commission potentially for like when hurricane. I've been doing this back all the way since Hurricane Sandy. Hurricane 3 doesn't everybody go dark, but you are correct, sir. For Hurricane Sandy, when that came through, I worked 2 weeks nonstop, 16-hour days every day for 14 days straight. Isaias, it was this is August of 2020. I did 8. It's like 16-hour days. So it takes a lot out of you. And I enjoy what I do for the most part. I like I like the people I work with, but it not being my day job and this being my day job would allow me to do a lot more stuff with Nerd Immersion and reviews and things like that. I'd be streaming a lot more, whether it was solo things, world building, even just games, running games, that kind of a thing. So, for example, Kugo, I'll throw it out there, that whole Destiny RPG, if Nerd Immersion was my day job, that would definitely happen sooner rather than later. Have you played in systems in the modern day? I have some friends who want to do a one-shot based around Mafia New York. There's a couple modern D20 source books out there that are, D20 modern, essentially. You're still using 5e rules, but they're kind of updated to be in the modern setting. So I would look at those. I can't remember all of them. I was just like modern D20 or like modern 5e. You probably could find something. Okay. I'll move you guys over to this screen because I do want to show you this on the DM's Guild right now. Take a look at this. Monster Manual 3, a fantastic asset for your collection for monster tomes. $13 today. Exploring Eberron. This is from Keith Baker, the man who created Eberron. He is so passionate about this setting. And this Exploring Eberron, this is his version of Eberron. You're a fan of Eberron, Kugo? I'm looking at you. This book right here, 11.98 today. Get this. This is what you want if you want to do Eberron stuff. Do you ever want to run a Studio Ghibli based kind of D&D game? Eyes Unclouded, 7.98 today. All the weapon. Actually, most of these I've done reviews on, believe it or not. Hammond's Harvesting Handbook Volume 3. I think I've done a review on this. $3.99. This is a fantastic resource for any kind of monster bit gathering. Really, really good. The Adventurer's Domestic Handbook is all about, being at home and running a farm and getting married and doing all sorts of stuff with that. This is also a very good resource if you're into that kind of stuff. And then all the weapons is 228 magic weapons. Again, for $3.99. I'm pretty sure I've reviewed every single thing on this list. And they're here on the channel somewhere. It says for even more Black Friday deals, click here. Here, look. The Solo Adventurers Toolbox. These are on sale right here. Puzzles, Predicaments, and Perplexities is also very good. Here's the whole Solo Adventurers bundle for $22. Monster Manual Expanded is on sale. All 3 versions of it. Ancestral Weapons is really good. I did a review on that. Crowns and Castles. I think I did a review on this too. It's like a D&D game within a D&D game. Or maybe this is one I was going to do and I just didn't get around to it. That might be it. Home Field Advantage is all about like monsters fighting on their home turf and how much stronger they are. That's also very, very good. There's a lot of good stuff on sale here. Trekonomicon is good. Alpha and Orc Had a Little Baby is good. Waterdeep City Encounter. There's a lot of good. Uncaged. Armorer's Handbook. There is a lot of good content. Tasha's Crucible. These are all really good things. If you're a fan of the DM's Guild and good third-party content, Doomed Forgotten Realms, dude, this is really good stuff. A lot of this is very good. You will not be upset with just about anything that I've mentioned so far that I've seen on this list as a whole. Like, these are all things that usually are in the top 50. Like, there's really good stuff here. Thanks, Gozira. Appreciate it. Yeah, I had the 3.5 D20 Modern for sure, but there is one for 5th edition. I know that. Yeah, Taryn agrees. The Exploring Eberron campaign setting is, that's really what you want. And it's just because and actually, it might even be out, or it's coming out, by the way. Keith Baker is releasing another Eberron guidebook in, within the next week, if it's not out already. No. So there's Exploring Eberron. He will be releasing a new Eberron book in the next week. I think he plans to have it out before PAX Unplugged, which is next Friday. And I know he's going to be there, so I'm going to try to get to talk to him some more. But yeah, so there'll be more Eberron stuff coming out here. So if you're an Eberron fan, like Exploring Eberron is quintessential. And then a couple other things. There's some other good ones out there. And I've done a review on Exploring Eberron on the channel. Also, I love this like hobgoblin looking goblin. This art I thought was really good. Anyway, that's that. Back to you guys. What do we got going on over here in the chat? Okay. Ted, do you have any RPG horror stories you could tell, or have you been lucky in gaming partners? Would love to hear a nice story. Yeah. Horror stories, sure. What's the worst one shot I've been a part of? There's actually a video, believe it or not, on the channel. But it was one of the worst one shots I was a part of. Actually, I've got a couple. The one that's on the channel is called like Rules Lawyering. And I'm doing like a Phoenix Wright in the thumbnail. That's a really good one where I was just felt so out of place because they were like, not that you can play the game wrong, but they were playing the game wrong. Like the rule, and there was one guy there who was like very much manipulating the DM to do things that you just can't do, but like would then like if people called him out, would like he would call other people out on stuff, but like come up with like did he I think he used his mage hand to cover the mouth of the enemy spellcaster so they couldn't cast verbal component spells and like the DM just allowed it. That was one, and like the DM cast a fireball on him, and he just used his reaction to dodge into the hallway to take like no damage. It was a lot. I don't remember the full story, but I made a video about it because it bothered me so much about not knowing what to do. Like, I don't want to like yuck their yum here, but like this game is just balls weird. It's like off the wall, crazy, doesn't make any sense. So I ended up just never going back to that campaign, which sucked because I had a really cool character. That was another time I attempted to play a rogue and it didn't work out. Let's see. Any chance of ever seeing Pathfinder content or reviewing the Paizo world? It's possible, but this channel is like, I mean, I just know that Paizo stuff just doesn't do as well numbers-wise. Although Paizo is reprising some of their stuff for 5e, so I do plan to review that at some point. Actually, I think I have Stars Over Stormwreck as the thing I was supposed to do, and I just never got around to it. Yeah, Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy Adventure. Yeah, that's what it is. Visiting the homebrew races on the DM's Guild, is that one of the few things? No, I have looked at a fair few. You know, I used to do just like errant reviews whenever I felt like it, or if somebody reached out. Sometimes I used to just do reviews where people would say, "Hey, can you check out this thing?" and I would do a review on it. The problem with that is sometimes the stuff is real bad, and like I don't want to just like shit talk somebody in a video if their content's bad. But I have reviewed a handful of different races and things on the channel. Those DM Guild playlists have a lot of stuff in them. Let's see. Let's see. There was a lot. Like the guy had multiple mage hands somehow from the DM's like a magic item he gave him. So he used like 6 mage hands to like pick up somebody. But then someone was like, "I do this," and he's like, "Oh, that doesn't work." And that was a really annoying one. Talk about the prison guy, dude. We can talk about that. It wasn't a one shot, but we can talk about that. Who's the prison guy? Yeah, all right, we'll talk about it. Hang on. So let me give you one more one shot. And I feel horrible about this one because I brought a friend to it. So, I used to play probably close to 6 years ago. I used to play at a local game shop, supposed to be Adventurers League stuff, on Wednesday nights. So I was just really tired of not being able to play D&D. So I was like, all right, I'm going to just look up a local game store. I'm going to make up an Adventurers League legal character, and I'm going to go to a game, and I'm going to play. So I show up at this local store with my character. I had like 3 characters prepped, depending on what the party was, right? I really wanted to play a monk, but there was a girl at the table that was playing a monk, so I decided I was going to play a bard instead. And I sat down at the table, and it was the game was being run by this guy's name was Tom, and he was a very old school, like, one-y suit. This guy's probably 50, 60 years old, something like that, maybe older. And he had like a very particular style, and he very much liked to live in the world of what he recalls. Now, we were supposed to be playing Princes of the Apocalypse. I should preface with that, right? And at the table, it was this girl who's playing the monk and her boyfriend. This guy named Jake. The DM, this kid named Liam, and the DM's wife. I think her name was Carol. And she was the worst. She was so like nitpicky, like in your face about things. Um, and she also played a gnome druid, and she talked like this the entire time as a druid. And I was like, "You are, I can't like." I'm new to the table. I can't argue with anything. But she was also the one who would like give like stares to her husband, the DM, like if something she didn't like what he was doing, and that really bugged me. Um, and we were supposed to be playing the Adventures League, which is my biggest problem because you're supposed to build specific characters with specific rules. And I looked around the table and I was like, oh, I'm the only one here with an AL legal character. Everybody else is just doing this Wild West at this table. I come back the next week. The girl and her boyfriend, the girl played the monk, and the boyfriend, they just don't ever show up again. So now it's me, Jake, this kid Liam, and Carol, the DM's wife. And the kid Liam, he is 15 years old. He's playing a ranger. And he has just like no interest in the game. It just seems like his parents dropped him off at the store so they could go shopping, and he was playing. But like, this is a kid that I vividly remember him getting up in the middle of the game, walking over to the comic book shelf, perusing the comics, picking out like the newest edition of a Batman comic, walking over, paying for it, coming back and sitting down at the table, and then reading the comic book at the table, all during the course of us playing the game. So give you a little frame of reference as to his state of mind. And then would just get really upset whenever something didn't work for him. Like if he rolled an attack roll and he missed, he would get like really like flustered and like cross his arms and just like shut down whenever we played. And then like at one point, I forget, he had to make like a perception check. And I was like, oh, you're an elf. You have proficiency in perception. And he's like, oh, I don't know any of this stuff. And just walked away. And I was like, cool, we're playing a game, but all right. So, couple weeks, or I've been doing this for a couple weeks. The DM's wife ends up joining, just like randomly, just ditches our group and decides to join another table because one of her other friends that she liked better was playing at that table, I guess. So she just decided to join them instead. So then it became me, Jake, and this kid Liam. That was our party, just the three of us. And I tell you that Tom was super old school. Like, we were fighting stuff that I'm like, I know this isn't in Princess of the Pop. We fight a lot of Norkers, right? Like the goblins with the heavy armor. He was a big fan of like old school. He old school minis and stuff. And like he had all those Ral Partha minis that he would put out on the board. And you could just tell that he was super old school. And he loved martial characters because like the Jake was playing a half orc fighter, so like he just kept giving Jake like ridiculous stuff. Like he gave him a sword that was a like, and we were very much in like a lawful versus chaos. He had like a lawful longsword that was like a +3 longsword, which he had at level like 3. And it let him do +6 to hit and damage against chaotic creatures. And I got an ebony and ivory loot that gave me a +20 to my performance checks as a bard. So that was interesting. Which I immediately was like, oh, I sell that. I don't need that. I already have expertise. I'm good. And I remember we killed somebody that had like a funky eyeball, and it was like an eyeball that had true sight. And I was like, cool, I want to pluck out their eyeball of true sight and I want to put it in my head. And like, I was like, cool, do I go to like a healer or like somebody who has magic? And he's like, no, healers don't know how to do it. But if you find someone who's a leecher can do it. And I was like, okay, magic healing. No, all right, cool. Yeah, I go to the leecher. and I have them pluck out my eyeball and put in the true sight eyeball. And he's like, cool. And he's like, but it makes you more chaotic. And I was like, what does that mean? And he's like you might not know what you want to have for breakfast the next morning. And I was like, cool. Now I have true sight to 120 feet all the time. Anyway, that was the thing. And the story that I just needed to set up the premise for all this, right? So my buddy Sean, who I usually play with on Tuesdays, who I've known for 33 years, right? I said, hey, dude, I have so much fun playing this game at this shop. I really think you're going to like my buddy Jake. He's really awesome. I'd love to have you come join us. Come to the shop. It's like Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. We'll play. So we get to the shop. Our DM doesn't show. So it's me, Sean, Jake, then the kid Liam. And they decide to just group us with another table. And this other table already has like 6 players. So now we're at a table of 10 players. And these 10 players are not playing Princes of the Apocalypse. They are playing a homebrew game, I guess, that has a very specific storyline of what they want to do in this session. But now they just had an influx of 4 extra characters that they just have to now incorporate into this setting wherever they are and just deal with it. And also Carol, the wife of the DM, who she was there, and she was on the other team. And it was the most grueling. We spent the entire 3 hours in that shop in initiative order with 10 people to do anything. Like, I walk down the hallway, I dash and walk down the hallway 60 feet. Okay, cool, your turn. And I kind of get what the DM was going for. He had 10 players, so he's trying to mitigate the concept of dealing with 10 people all throwing things at him at the same time. But it took us probably an hour and a half to even get to the dungeon part of the adventure because we had to get down the hallway. And again, this wasn't like very clearly Adventurers League, but either way. So that was a thing. And Carol, I remember specifically because Sean still talks about this to this day. She had wild shaped as a druid into a spider. And Sean was just like, he was playing, I think, a monk for this episode, for this session. And he's like, well, I look, like, he rolled, like, a good perception check, and, like, the spider was walking in that direction. He's like, oh, I look over to you, and I say, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, do you speak spider? No, you don't speak spider, so I'm like, I don't understand you, and you don't understand me. And everybody's just like, what? What the hell, lady? So that's a quote that lives on in our campaigns to this day. Like, do you speak spider? To the point where one of either the druid or the rogue trinkets, I think it's a druid trinket in my magical trinket list that I have, is like a spider leg that lets you speak spider. And then we get to the lower level, and it's like, it's gonna be a skill-based thing, right? Where we need to get across from room 1. Like, we're here, and we got to get across this chasm, right? And in the middle are, like, platforms. And it's like there's, like, a watery, slimy, viscous liquid with platforms. And we're going to jump. Like, that's the goal, right? You got to get across. Again, remind you, 10 players in initiative order. You got to get across the room. That's the plan. How are you going to do it, right? Can you teleport? Do you have that kind of magic? Are you going to just risk it and jump? Can you speak spider and climb on the wall? Whatever you're going to do, okay? So, the process starts. People are going across. And you look down into the liquid, And it is like this viscous liquid. No one's really touched it yet, but you can just tell from the movement of it. And at the bottom of it are just like sapphires, just like big old honking sapphires worth a ton of gold, just at the bottom. And like 90% of us at the table are like, well, that's a trap, very clearly. Don't put your hand in the viscous liquid, you will die. But our good buddy Liam decided to clue in from his comic book at big old sapphires. And he decides that he's going to stick his hand into the liquid. And then it turns out this viscous liquid is like a clear acid. And it starts eating his arm. And it also kind of like pulls him in, or he slipped and fell because all the stuff is covered in it, so it's slippery. So he falls into the pool of acid. And he starts burning alive because he's in acid, trying to grab these sapphires. And he's like, well, I'm already in it, so I'm going. And he grabs one of the sapphires. And my poor buddy Sean, who I was like, dude, you gotta come. It's so much fun. And we spent an hour and a half so far walking down a hallway. He's next to the kid who jumps into the thing and starts dying. And he's like, he rolled a really good like acrobatics check. And he's like, I like grab him and I like flip him up out and I save him, right? And he made the check and the DM's like, cool, yeah, you reach in, you don't take any damage, and you're able to like save him from dying in the acid pool. And he's in acid, so his like none of his stuff was magical, right? So his like his clothing and all of his gear that he had on him dissolves in the acid ooze. So my friend Sean pulls out this naked body of this guy, and he's still alive, and he's clutching two of these sapphires, and the DM's like, yeah, they're worth 500 gold apiece. And he's like super bummed that all of his gear is gone. I mean, again, like I said, the dude's probably like 15. And like he's like really just like devastated that his character is naked. So he takes the sapphires, throws them back into the acid, and just said, well, this is stupid. And then purposefully dove his character back into the acid to commit suicide of his character, and then just sat there in a huff the rest of the session for the 2 hours. And that like basically the entire table's mood just got killed after that happened. And then like my buddy's like, cool, I like did my whole thing to save this kid, and then he just killed his character on purpose, and then is just now upset about it sitting here. And we had to like listen to him harumph and be mad the rest of the session anytime anybody did anything successful. And then the session ended with like something that was super impactful for the other 6 people at the table, and none of us, the other 4, knew what was happening. And then like our DM came back the next week, and basically he just like reset it, and it was as if we didn't do anything. Like that whole set, none of it happened. It was like that was a fun thing since I wasn't here, but like none of that was real. But that one experience was enough for my friend Sean to just be like, yeah, I'm not ever doing that again. That was awful. And then basically that's the reason I started streaming D&D on this channel, was because I realized that like that was Jake's only experience playing D&D was like that game. And Sean was just like, that was just god awful. So I was like, hey, why don't you two come to my house instead on like a Tuesday night, and we'll just play D&D. I'll run a game for the 2 of you. Sean, I feel so bad. That was so awful. And like, Jake, you should really experience what a true campaign is. And the original Nerd Immersion campaign that I ran like 6-7 years ago, that started with Lost Minds of Phandelver, that ran for about 50 sessions, that is contained in its entirety on this YouTube channel, stemmed from basically that one awful one-shot. And that is my horror story one-shot story. Scene. Anyway, there you go. We wanted a horror story. There you go. Go Pole. Yeah, it's a long road from Guild Wars 2, my friend. It sure is. So, you guys wanted a good story. I got you one. So there we go. I also think he had headphones in like a lot of the time too. Like he was just. I really truly think that his parents just dropped him there to go shopping. Like that was a common thing. Like I used to see it all the time when I used to work at GameStop. Parents would treat your store as like a babysitter thing. Like they'd drop you off in GameStop and go do their shopping and just like let your kid hang out in the store so they could hopefully like play the consoles in the front and be occupied while the parents went and did whatever. So I'm pretty sure that was a similar situation. Um yeah, I guess it was an origin story too, now that you think about it. I don't know how long it takes to get plaques from YouTube. I don't know if I have to like do something, like submit something. I have to check. Um, Thank you, everybody. Oh, I gotta apply for it. Okay, well, let's go do that right now. Stand by, guys. I'm gonna go apply for my plaque real quick. Um, get that going here. But in the meantime, somebody had mentioned, yes, a long way from Guild Wars 2. For those of you who don't know, I did get my start in on YouTube and doing all this kind of stuff from Guild Wars 2 in a Guild Wars 2 podcast called Chronicles of Tyria. So that was a thing that happened. Updated dashboard in the YouTube Studio app. All right, well, we might have to apply for this after the fact because I'm not seeing the option for it right now. So I don't want to just sit here and be looking through YouTube stuff. All right, we'll come back to that. Okay, couple of things. Got a lot of good questions, so we're gonna get to all of these. You ever run or been a character in the Tyranny of Dragons campaign? Yes and yes. Funnily enough, there is an entirety run of Tyranny of Dragons on this very channel. So you can see. Actually, I think the majority of it is on this channel. And then the second, like the last little bit of it is on this. So I have a secondary channel. If you guys don't know, it's called Nerd Immersion Plays. I started transitioning away most of the gameplay content from the main channel, with the exception of very specific things, to the secondary channel. So that way it doesn't cluster up your feed. Let me get some playlists for you guys here. Hang on. So the original campaign is called Know Your Role. That is the original campaign that stemmed from what we had just talked about. I have many, many playlists on this channel. So, the original one that, again, stemmed from the horror story was called Know Your Role. There is, on this channel, there is the entirety of Horde of the Dragon Queen is on here. So if you, there's 31 sessions of Horde of the Dragon Queen. There is 28 sessions of Rise of Tiamat, and I think the rest of them are on the secondary channel, which is, I think, also called still Rise of Tiamat. And that actually had, that campaign technically is still going on, although we finished it. We've continued the story beyond that. There's also a variety of other campaigns on this channel. Curse of Strahd. There's a short run thing. There's a couple of 24-hour live streams on this channel. This is the Apocalypse, Out of the Abyss. There's a lot of content. I've run a lot of games. Tomb of Annihilation's on here too. Let's see. How about a funny story next? Well, I don't want to leave people. Well, this is sort of. This isn't a funny story. I'm thinking about. because there was conversations about the prison guy, but I don't know if I want to talk about that one. Um, um, my favorite pre-written campaign. I think I'm actually leaning more towards Tomb of Annihilation, honestly, as time has gone on. I feel like I reflect fondly back on that one compared to a lot of the others. Dogs are jumping on the floor upstairs. So I'm trying to think of a good, funny D&D story. All right, this is one that I tell a lot, but this is from back in the day. This is OG Ted from 2004. Okay, that's my first campaign. So I am playing D&D for the first time in a 3-5 campaign. Like a couple stories from that campaign that are good. So the first one is we all show up to the game. We're gonna play in a library, the local library. And we gave the DM all of our character sheets after we made them. He lost all the character sheets. So we're playing in the library with no character sheets. We're just like going off of what we can remember off the character sheets. And I'm 17. So like what do you guys do? And I'm like, I get my character drunk. Right? That was my first thing I wanted to do right at the gate. Get my character drunk. So I start like my character is just like wasted. Turns out I find out over the course of playing through the game that my character was the one who had like all the information about the meeting we had with like the king of this like village. So that was fun. I threw up all over myself. They cleaned me off with my own cloak. So that was fun. And then we ended up we ended up finding out that we were delivering a message of war to that town from another town. We found that out like in the session, so we lied about that. And then somehow got hired by the other king to declare war on another town. And then ended up leaving, setting the place on fire. We got kicked out of the library because we were too loud. That was my first introduction to D&D. My character got drunk. I ruined the entire initial meeting, and we burnt down most of the town so that we could like cover our tracks because I think one of us accidentally killed a stable boy. And by accidentally, I think I mean natural 20 the stable boy with an arrow, but either way. So anyway, we left the library in real life. We got kicked out. But what happened later on, which is one of the best stories. So one of my friends, our party was basically 3 people. It was a half nymph sorcerer, male sorcerer, a half elf monk, and I was playing a wood elf druid. So it was just 3-5. So I had an animal companion. He was a giant crocodile named Bob. He was a 15-foot long crocodile. He traveled with me everywhere. He was an absolute beast. I don't think he ever took a single point of damage, but he killed like everything. It was awesome. And my friend who was the monk, his whole thing that he decided he wanted to try to do, and this I think stemmed from a little bit of being shot down pretty consistently in high school, was he wanted his character to go to the bar and try to pick up chicks. Right, we're 17 years old. He didn't have a very active relationship life. Not that I had anyone to speak of either, but he like tried and got shot down a bunch. So his character is living vicariously through his character. Was going to try to pick up chicks. So you could probably see where this is going. But he struck out every time. Constantly. Because he just rolled. He was also a monk in 3-5, and it's like charisma checks, and like you're so dependent on literally every other stat in 3-5: strength, dex, con, and wisdom. Charisma is usually the bottom of the barrel for the monk. So he struck out every time. And then, so the rest of us were at the bar, and he was just like, I went into the bar. He was trying to hit on somebody, and it went over very poorly, and everybody was like talking shit about him. So I was like, dude, just get out of here. Just read the room. So he left. and he went to the local like apothecary shop, and he talked to the shopkeeper, and he's like, I'm looking for magic items. And the shopkeeper's like, well, I have this magic flute. And he's like, awesome, how much is it? And the shopkeeper's like, how much gold do you have? And my friend's like, we've got about 2,000 gold. And then the shopkeeper goes, it's a 2,000 gold magic flute. And he's like, awesome, I buy it. And then he gets the flute. Now, mind you, his character can't play the flute. He has no proficiency in playing the flute. He goes out of the shop, comes back into the bar, and starts just like playing the flute. Now, if you've ever heard somebody play the flute poorly, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And when I say flute, I'm not talking like a flute. I guess it's more like almost like a recorder, like a fife, more like a straight flute rather than like a flute. And like a jazz flute, right? And he is just garbage. And like to the point where like now everybody in the bar is getting even more angry, and they're getting kind of like angry at us by association of this. And I'm like, dude, just it is not working. This ain't it, chief. Call it. And he's not. So I like get up from the bar, I grab him, and I literally throw him out of the bar. That was pretty strong, surprisingly, for a druid, because I really had no concept of like how to do my stats. So I was really strong, and I hurl him out of the bar. And now everybody in the bar loves me, right? And getting drinks bought for me, and just to kind of like as like a little dig for this guy who spent the entire party's gold without talking to us about it. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to hit on one of the barmaids, and then like long story short, it went very well for my character. I rolled very well, and then I ended up having like a long-term girlfriend in the game. That was just kind of like let me just twist the knife a little bit on him. But then, as if that wasn't enough, we are all traveling together. So now it's me, my new girlfriend character, who the DM is playing as an NPC. She's like a divination wizard, I think. The sorcerer, our monk friend. And I also had a habit in that game of just adopting characters to bring with us. And then she's like, do you mind if my brother comes with us? And I was like, sure, more the merrier. And like the party hates me because I just keep adding people, like random people that I find. I think we rescued a gnome from like a prison. I was like, come on, you come with us. Just do whatever. But then I would also sell them down the river the first chance I got. Not my girlfriend, though. That was a long-term thing. But anyway, we get into the forest and we're like heading out there, and at this point, like everybody's kind of like, we had our little joke, haha, that was funny. And then the sorcerer's actually the DM's brother, and he goes, what did the flute actually do, by the way? And then the DM goes, oh, it gives you a +4 if you're playing the flute. It's like it gives you a +4 to not be afraid of trees. But if you fail the check, you are now afraid of trees. So from then on, when we were in the forest, the monk had to play his flute and hope to roll well. Otherwise, he was afraid of the forest. And he spent the entire party's gold on it. So, anyway. Just like straight up regular trees, It was a cursed item that he bought with our party's gold. Didn't even technically inquire if it was magical before he bought it. The guy just told him it was, and he bought it at face value. So, anyway, that was a fun little time. I really enjoyed that campaign a lot. And, my character's girlfriend and the brother ended up becoming, like, they ended up getting class levels. Like, she was just like a barmaid, and then she eventually became like a divination wizard. And the brother was like a master thrower. Like, he was like an eccentric kleptomaniac thief, which was hilarious because like I would be like, I forget his name, was like Jaren, I think. And we were like trying to like do missions like recon and stuff, and I was like, Jaren, can you like go into town and like see what you can figure out? And he's like, got it, boss, no worries. I'm not the leader of the party, by the way. That's just what he used to call me. It was like totally cool with me being with his sister, so whatever. NPCs, take it as it is. And he comes back to the like the hideout, and he's like, oh, ah, and I was like, dude, what happened? Are you okay? And he's like, yeah, here. And he lifts up his shirt, and he stole an entire cooked turkey that was like basted in oil, but like it was still hot, and he had 3rd-degree burns on his stomach from carrying the turkey. And I was like, what? And he's like, you told me to see what I could scrounge up. And he's like, and I got this arrow and 3 forks. And I was like, good job, buddy. Let's keep it up. Like, yeah, you know, good stuff. Oh, man. We used to have a lot of fun in that game. Yeah, we ate the turkey. Hell yeah, we ate the turkey. I was a druid, but I was very, very neutral on my druid spectrum. So there were a couple of forests. There was a forest that in that town right there that I actually ended up burning down. Because I was like, well, it's an evil forest, so let's burn it to the ground. We rallied the townspeople to burn it down. And then the forest started like coming alive, and we heard roars of bigger things in the town, so we just left the town to die. We were 17, and you could do that kind of stuff in D&D. Yeah, my druid becoming afraid of trees, that would have been awful. Yeah, I cured him with magic, so I fixed his stomach. It was fine. I am a huge fan of Destiny. That is, in fact, an Ace of Spades. There's a ghost right here. And there is an engram right here. And actually, behind the Ace of Spades is there's a hive ghost behind the Ace of Spades. We're working on a Destiny one-shot, if not full campaign. So it's a thing that's happening in the future. Thank you, Steve, for the congratulations. I guess the last story I'll tell you is how it led to me burning down the forest. And then, yeah, go ahead. Enjoy. My feet are disgusting, but if you want to have the pictures you just get from that, take it. It's all you, my friend. Yeah, so we were in that town, and the reason we ended up burning the forest down, we had to travel through the forest to get to the town. And it did have like a weird time dilation thing in the forest where we spent a lot longer in there than we should have, which was like messing with me. And I was like, this is weird. I hate this forest. I don't like this. And so this is the town where there's a girlfriend, the whole thing. And then like it was early morning, like, and our sorcerer wakes up, and like he was half nymph and he was crazy, and he was going to become an alienist. For those of you who know what alienists are from like the 3-5 days, where it's just like pseudo natural, like absolutely batshit crazy Cthulhu nonsense. Like that's the route he was going towards. He never got there, but that's what he was doing. So he went out into like the street of like out of the tavern we were staying in, and was just like pissing on a barrel in the alleyway because he wanted to. And like an old man's like, hey, you can't do that. That's illegal. I'm calling the guards. And in his infinite wisdom, the response to that was, summon a giant centipede next to the old man and then say, oh my God, look at that. There's giant centipedes in this town. And then burning hands the centipede of his own creation and the old man, killing them both. having the people in the town be like, what was that? And then using his stupid charisma score, because this is 3-5 and he had like a 25 charisma or higher, uh, to rally the entire town that giant centipede came from the forest, which everybody knows that the forest is a little weird, and that we should burn down the forest. And then I was like, hell yeah, let's burn down the forest. And they're like, and the sorcerer's like, the druid says we should burn down the forest. What more proof do you need? And I was like, don't make it like that. All right, fine. So then we whip up the entire town into this frenzy to like burn down the forest. People pitch. We got the whole like mob going, right? And everybody gets close to the forest. And I remember like one guy was like a tinker, and he made like a little like fire, like a bomb that like walked in and like set stuff on fire. And the second that like the trees started rustling and we heard like the deep roar from inside as like the animals from the forest start like fleeing out into the crowd, and like horses are going, it's going like it's crazy. And like it's just utter chaos. I like grab a horse, my ride skill, because I didn't really know what to do. I had like a 25 ride, so it was ridiculous. So I just like grabbed a horse that was running by, and like Legolas flipped up onto it and like rode by, found in the crowd my character's girlfriend, slung her on the back, and like was just throwing my friends onto horses so that we could just beat feet out of there and like leave these people to fight whatever we wakened in the forest. And on our way out of town, as we were leaving, in his infinite wisdom, our sorcerer decided to use Scorching Ray to write poop on the roof of one of the houses with an arrow pointing in the direction we were running. And that was the end of that town forever. So, another wonderful story for all of you. Anyway, man, going down memory lane on these is just really funny. So thank you for whoever asked the question about a funny story from D&D. Anyway. Let me scroll back up. I know I missed some stuff. Do I miss 3.5's customization? I do, if I'm being honest. It was some of my favorites. I used to love the amount of time I could spend just like poring over books to make crazy stuff. Do you feel like the path of the Spiked Ravager is a strong class after the changes you made? I do. We had a character. So my Everend campaign, by the way, jumping back up to Kevin Kimball's question, Path of the Spiked Ravager is kind of a joint between me and Firebringer Axel adjustment to the Battle Rager Barbarian. And in my Everend campaign, you can see that my Jake from the stories from before, he's been playing that in that campaign for like 120 some odd episodes. And he loves it. If you're a fan of the Drizzt novels, we did our best to try to make it feel like Thibbledorf Puent as best as possible, because he was my inspiration for the updates made, because I love that character. And he said he's had a lot of fun, and it's surprising the amount of survivability the temporary hit points gives you. He only has like an 18 AC, but he just tanks through stuff like crazy. That's awesome. Yes, Bob, the animal companion, was the tank / damage dealer. He was awesome. I still have the character sheets in the other room. Yeah, yes, the Destiny one shot will happen. I promise. Yeah, we already Kugo in the chat. If he's still hanging around in the chat here, he made a character already, a Cabal character in the D and Destiny thing, which I'm very excited because his character is so goofy. I love it. A Cabal Titan. It should be really fun to do. Has that town ever appeared in another campaign? It has not. I should bring it back, just for the hell of it. That town. If a person could only get one and only one third-party D&D book, one and only one. The question comes down to what are you? Who are you? Are you the player or are you the DM? Because if you're the DM, I will suggest literally any of the Kobold Press monster tomes. Creature Codex, Tome of Beast 1, 2, or 3. Any of those are a fantastic addition to your collection if you had to only get one. Nothing beats them. They're fantastic. I also would throw in the Monster Manual Expanded, that series as well. Any one of those. Thank you, John. Here's a question. I'm a Warlock main, tried and true, from D1 to now. Although I also enjoy, at least currently, Arc Titan because it's stupid. But I like Titan as well. But it's a Warlock main through and through. Old Soldier, yeah, we'll accept Dragonlance questions. Fire away. So I was wondering if you had a chance to look at any of the old AD&D source books. No, I do have the 3.5 or the third, or maybe it's just third edition, the Dragonlance campaign. I do have that. I have like the physical book in the other room, and I have like briefly glanced at it, but I have not looked at any of the older stuff, at least not recently. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's, what is the craziest campaign you DM? I haven't really DM'd in a while. So part of the reason, I mean, I was DMing, my Everin campaign got pretty nutty because I was doing this whole plane hopping, multiverse saving prophecy with 12 different heroes from a variety of different campaigns. Where I like wrote an epic prophecy about all the heroes they would need to gather. And then it kept changing because they kept making weird decisions. Like part of like one of the members of their party is now like Strahd. It's very odd. That's pretty crazy. If you could play only one class for the rest of D&D, all editions, what class would you pick? That's tricky because all editions is so difficult. Especially, I mean, like, I don't want to dive too much into it because I get the gist of your question, so I'm not going to, like, belabor it. But, like, in 3.5, we had a ton of base classes, and I loved, like, Dragonfire Adept and the Dragon Shaman. And, like, I hated Paladin in 3rd edition, but it's my favorite class in 5th edition. And I loved Druid in 3rd edition and Ranger in 3rd edition, and I hate them in 5th edition. I don't like the Ranger, and I'm not a huge fan of the Druid. I think I'm gonna have to go Cleric. Because I don't think I've ever been disappointed with a Cleric that I've played, regardless of edition. And no one is gonna be upset to have a Cleric in the party, even if your main function isn't necessarily healing. You can still do it, and that gets you invited to things. So probably Cleric. Angel question: which edition of D&D is best to you? Oh, that's tricky. It's definitely a toss-up between 3.5 and 5. I've played a lot more 5e. A lot more because of, obviously, the channel and everything else. And I do have a lot of fun memories. But I probably have the memories I'm most nostalgic about from 3.5. And I honestly do think it's because that's what I got started in. And I'd have to check with other people. But I do feel like the first edition or like the first campaign and things that you play, especially if they went well, people tend to have a nostalgia or they tend to gravitate towards that being their favorite because it was the first time they were able to experience D&D. Again, if your first experience was D&D 3.5 and it was awful, or first edition and it sucked, but you played 4th edition and you had a blast, then I'm sure 4th edition's probably the one. But as you can tell from some of the crazy stories that I've told, I loved my 3.5 campaign, which is my intro into D&D and really RPGs as a whole. And I'm very nostalgic for that. I'm very nostalgic for the builds and stuff I was able to do in 3.5. But 5e is a lot more accessible. You get more people to play. I think I'd have to choose 3.5 as my favorite edition, but 5e is a very close second. What are your thoughts on the Dragonlance unique weapon of the Hoopak? I like it. I just think it's weird that rogues can't use it because it's a martial weapon. You think Wizard is going to be substantially changed in 1D&D? I don't think so. I think Wizard is pretty solid where it's at, personally. Okay. Let's see. Do you have a favorite or memorable all-time boss fight? Ooh. I think one of my favorite fights that I had in a while, it wasn't even like I guess it was technically a boss fight, was in our Curse of Strahd Season 1 that's on this channel. We had a really, really good encounter with Strahd early on. And it was like we first got to Barovia, and like everybody was super jazzed about the characters. I loved my character. His name. We got into naming all of our characters, riffed off of Harry Potter. Like my character's name was Griff Endor, and we had Angus Ravenclaw and Sassy Slytherin and Knick Knack Hufflepuffer were our characters in that. So I was playing Griff Endor, and I was a devotion paladin, and I used a chain as a whip that did like a d6. So I was trying to live out my Castlevania dream. And we were in, oh god, one of the first towns in Barovia where we met the girl who's like Strahd's, oh god, Katarina, I want to say, or something like that. She's like the girl that Strahd wants to be his new Tatiana. And we're in the house, like, with her brother, and, like, we've boarded up the doors. And at one point, there's, like, scratching at the doors, and it's, like, zombies. So my party's all asleep, and I'm on watch, and I see the zombies, and I'm able to actually, like, I think I use, like, turn undead or something, and I'm able to kill the zombies by myself. And I'm like, I can do this and, like, save my party. I'm confident in my ability to take out these creatures without disturbing the party, let them get their rest. So I do, and I go to sleep. And it's on, like, my sister's, who's playing a rogue, it's on her shift. And she hears, like, a knock at the door and looks, and it's Strahd, and she fails her saving throw against the charm. And he's just, like, open the door. And she did, and, like, because of like one of the wizard's familiar that was there, we're all like a know that this is happening, and like Strahd's coming into the building, right, and we're like, oh, Strahd. So we all come like rushing into the main like banister area. Yeah, I think it's Barovia. Irina, thank you, Irina. Is her name, and like we're like, we gotta save her. We rush into the hallway, and he's there, and he like summons in like 2 swarms of bats, and like people are fighting the bats, and he like charms the wizard like right out the gate. So it's like, I'm the paladin, we have a druid, and our rogue is already under his charm. And like my character, being in this instance very much basically like a Simon Belmont situation, or Trevor Belmont, is like, you know, die monster, you know, you don't belong in this world, kind of a thing. And I'm like, but I already spent a bunch of my stuff trying to stop the zombies, and I haven't had the long rest back to like do the things. So I'm like fighting. We're all trying to fight Strahd, right? Do as much as we can. We're trying to stop him from getting to Irina. And I remember it was like, I like blow through every spell slot I have. I'm like chain whipping this guy, dealing radiant damage, like watching it like stop his regen. And I'm like, oh, we could do it. Like maybe we could, you know. And like between the bats and everything else, he is just like wiping the floor with us, just purely toying with all of us. Um, and I remember somehow on the staircase going up, like I'm fighting Strahd on like the staircase going up the stairs, and I'm like hitting him and it's spinning all of my stuff, and I get knocked down to death saving throws, and he's like starting to walk up the stairs past me, and I roll a natural 20 on my turn for the saving throw. So I'm like, I get up and I like run up to him, and I'm like trying to fight him. And like then at a point, like I've still got the 1 hit point and I'm somehow doing okay. And he's got me, he's like holding me up by like the thing. And I like reach into my pack and grab like a thing of alchemist fire and I smash it on his face. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to, and he's like wreathed in this green flame from the alchemist fire. And he just like doesn't care because his regeneration is stronger than the alchemist fire. So now I'm being held up in the air by my throat by Strahd wreathed in green flames. And he just like throws me down the stairs and knocks me out. And like, I'm like like the other characters who are like charmed are just sitting there, and I'm like groggily enough, like able to open an eye and watch him walk down the stairs holding Irina's hand and just like walk out the door and just leave us all there for dead as the bats fly out after him. And you want to talk about such a tense and like character defining moment, and it was just like we were in, right? That was like we Strahd must die. We are in it. We want him dead. Like it was really, really well designed. Like that's just the way it all played out was just phenomenal. That would be my most memorable boss battle, I would say. To answer that very short question very longly, which is my usual thing, right? Thank you, Kelf. I really appreciate it. All right, time to jump back up to some of the other questions that came through. I'm starting a 3-5 game. Do you know much about the Soulborn? Is that one of the Tome of Magic classes, if I recall? Not too much, no. Couple of tangent questions. Did you ever mention how you made your proton pack? If not, how'd you do it? Ever think about making a flux capacitor? I have not thought about making a flux capacitor. My proton pack is made as much as sourced with original materials as possible. Fiberglass, and then this one is mostly aluminum. My original ones that I made were a lot of resin cast parts. This one I paid to have somebody basically aluminum weld me a lot of the pieces for it so that it would be like, the thought process was it's my final pack, right? Like, I mean, every Ghostbuster says like this is the final pack I'm building, and then we usually build like 8 more. But I haven't made one since. I do have a resin shell, like a fiber or a fiberglass proton pack shell in my garage, in case I ever get that itch again. But I haven't messed with it in a long time. 3.5 Mystic Thurge, because Cleric and Wizard spells. I never played a Mystic Thurge, but I know how good they are. Have you ever ran Tiamat as a boss or fought her as a PC? Both. I have fought her as a PC, horribly, and I started to run her as a like she was breaking through the portal in Rise of Tiamat, but the party managed to stop it. I don't know if Taryn's still hanging out here, but our group that did the Don't Say Vecna one shot, right? Taryn and Dan and Jordan and Greg, we had toyed around, and we might still. I still plan to do this. I just haven't had the time. Is to take those characters and play and fight all of the final bosses from like all of the campaigns. So like fight Tiamat, fight the Princes of the Apocalypse, fight the Demon Lords from Out of the Abyss, and just like do the final battles, because that could just be a really fun idea for a couple of live streams. Similar question, but do your favorite source books line up with your favorite playing editions? Because 4E had some great monster ecology books. I never really read much of the 4E stuff. A lot of my favorite source books are 3.5, like the Magic Item Compendium, the whole complete series, Heroes of Horror, Heroes of Ruin. The fact that they made books for a bunch of the monsters like Libris Mortis, Lords of Madness. There's a lot of good stuff that I really liked from 3.5. Ba-do-boo-boo. Waffles, 100% waffles. It goes waffles, pancakes, French toast. That's the order, if you ask me. Soulborn is Magic of Incarnum. Yes. Not a lot of knowledge about it, no. But I do have that book, actually. One thing you can change in 5e, just snap your fingers. It happens right now. No monkey's paw. What is it? That's a good one. Just like, and now this has changed. Boy. Attunement slots. They fix the concept with magic items and allow you to have more. That's probably what I would do. Or, like, rules for buying and selling magic items that are actually helpful. What's the favorite thing you've stolen from other media and made it into your own for a campaign? Probably not what you're thinking. But that whole Know Your Role campaign, the crux of that they didn't end up getting to finish due to a spoiler alert TPK, they were trying to get to Flavortown, and they didn't know why. I threw it in as a joke that, like, Flavortown existed as a place in the world, and, like, once people go to Flavortown, they never come back. Which is obviously, and then, like, I started to build out the lore of this version of the Forgotten Realms. You know, Gaius of House Fieri, the Fire Genasi king of Flavortown. And it ended up becoming my whole crux for a campaign. Was essentially just all about Food Network stars. I know it sounds dumb. But it was actually a lot of fun. And I had this whole thing. The party didn't end up knowing about it until, like, in my Everend campaign, as part of closing things out with that massive prophecy. They had to go and gather heroes from that version of the Forgotten Realms and basically complete the quest so that they could, like, basically to give everybody closure to finish that out. But yeah, there was a whole thing, and basically, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. I made my own version of the Forgotten Realms. So basically, we use the concept of, like, the world tree from Norse mythology exists, and basically it was guarded by a dragon that was made by all of the good gods, and essentially it was like a plant-based dragon. And long story short, after years of things happening, it was determined that, like, scales and parts of, like, this plant dragon could be harvested, and they could be used to basically be like magic spice that makes anything taste good. And I dipped it the flavor. Right? That was the name of it. And it got into a whole big debacle from all of the high-ranking Food Network stars were all involved, and they got into a big fight because this concept of this magical spice removed the need for anybody to know how to cook. Like, learning and, like, the skill of it was gone if you could just use magic powder that made everything taste good. So they were rationing it out to, like, you can only get so much so that, like, the skill of culinary arts isn't lost forever. And basically the good people in this instance were Guy Fieri, Alton Brown, and Duff Goldman from Ace of Cakes. They were the three, like, good people, and everybody else was the bad people. And so dumb. I feel so bad telling the story, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. Uh, long story short, the bad people used up their supply very quickly, and they tried to like harvest their own. They like went in illegally, stole some of like they also eventually found out that it was the dragon that they were basically harvesting, and it kind of became a thing where like it was a more of like a beneficial symbiotic relationship. Like if you prune it and like cut like the lesser leaves, it doesn't hurt the dragon. It essentially, in the process of trying to force the dragon to generate more of this flavor, the bad people poisoned it, and they essentially made this poisoned version of the flavor. And then I took that concept, and it basically had the effect of the Reavers from Firefly, where a portion of the populace that ingested this infected version of it were totally fine, but another portion of it would just become like ravenous subhuman monster creatures. Um, and long story short, basically, Guy Fieri used all of like his magic and a crazy thing to create a bubble around the town of Flavortown, to keep everybody inside from transforming. And that was why when people would go there, they wouldn't leave, because like if you ingested any of the stuff in the city that was made with it, you couldn't leave, or you might transform or be killed by the mass roving amounts of fleavers, which is what I call them because I'm very original, that were roaming around the deadlands outside of Flavortown. Um, and that the eventual part of the original campaign was them to get there and like fix it, save the dragon, heal the dragon, stop the transformation, fix everything. Um, and then they eventually started to do it in the newer campaign. And when they were working on trying to fix it, Flavortown was assaulted by 5 members who I can't remember who they all are off the top of my head, but they were all in giant piloted um, suits, like mech suits, like Power Ranger Zords. Basically assaulting the city. They all had a unique ability, like breath weapons and different things. And then when the party defeated 2 of them, they all combined like Voltron to make the Iron Chef, which was a giant like Voltron monster of these mechs together. Because I am original, so there you go. What a what a world. Um, sorcerers or con casters would have been a good way to thing to fix. Um, what's French toast? French? No, whatever. I'm not even gonna address your French toast comment. Do you miss the way old 3-5 books were laid out? Yeah, I do actually. It's not a thing I would think about often, but I do miss that. Um, somebody said the Destiny Engram. That is true. What that thing is above the D20. Better crafting rules. Correct. Um, yeah. Anyway, as I see a lot of people having some fun with my my horrible Food Network based campaign. Oh man, it took them a long time to even start to put the threads together as to where it was all going. And then I had to TPK them and then bring it back like 6 years later to finish the story. But um, let's see. What concept from previous editions would you bring back? It's gonna be a base class or a different mechanic system. I would say the mechanics of like, again, realistically, probably crafting. Like the concept where you know what school of magic a magic item is, you know how much it is to buy it, you know how much it takes to craft it. And like I guess associated with that comes experience points as a currency, because that was often a thing you needed to craft magic items, was you would give up experience points when crafting to craft a magic item. and that kind of also helped to offset the power balance, right? Because you could, in theory, you could give up enough experience points that it dropped you a level to make like a good magic item. That was kind of a part of the balance. Um, Thank you, everybody. Does anyone know if we got better full color maps in the Dragonlance book as opposed to those blue, white, ugly maps they've been using? I believe, yes, we did get color maps from Dragonlance. Let's, I know, like, the perforated tear out map from the end is color, but that's just like an overworld map. Let's see what we can pull up in the book here. Let's go to chapter 3. See if we can find a battle map. Again, the overworld city maps are there. I'm trying to see if we have an actual, like, battle map with the grid. Going through the entirety of chapter 3. I figured it would be best to skip ahead a little bit here. Yeah. Here you go. The maps are color from the looks of it. Battle of High Hill. Let's see if we have any more. Doesn't appear so, I don't think, in this second or this third chapter. Maybe. Oh, here's another one. Yeah. So, yeah, color maps in Dragonlance. I don't actually think the Brute Fighter was that overpowered. I think you'd be fine to use it as it was. I think they're going to do something with crafting. Yeah, I hope they're going to do something with crafting. Anything, really, would be better than what we have, which is basically nothing. So... This has been fun, though. You guys have had me think about a lot of stuff I haven't thought about in a long time. Nostalgia hits real. But this is a nostalgic stream, so. Oh, for anybody wondering, I did get the Samsung S22 Ultra today as my phone of choice. Dude, there are nuts deals at Verizon right now. It's crazy. Thank you, Tuscan. Appreciate it. Really, thank you to everybody for getting me to the 100K. I hope to see a bunch of you at PAX Unplugged. Any ideas for what the next UA? I'm hoping it's the warrior class, like the fighter or the barbarian monk. No idea though, technically. I have a question. When will you eventually make a plushie of Bob the alligator? I should. That's such a good idea. I should do that. Any intention to return to obscure overlooked rules? Yes, that is an intention. I have to just find some to go back and look at. But yeah, like I said, this year has just been a funky year for me. I'm starting to kind of get my momentum again to where I was at the end of last year now. As you've seen with the flux of videos that have been coming out lately, but I've kind of gotten past a lot of the like, I don't know if it's burnout or what it was that was holding me back. But like now I have so much stuff I want to do, I just don't have enough time to do it. Do you have? But you have to make Bob life size. Yeah, 15-foot giant crocodile. It's a big ass plushie. Here, I'll show you. I actually have the mini. The mini we used for Bob, which is mini is a stretch. He's right over here. I keep him on my shelf. Where you at, Bob? This little piece of rainbow string. We were looking. When we were playing D&D back in the 3.5 days. We used the perforated like white battle mat that we pulled out of the back of the DMG, but we had no terrain, And like everybody's minis were just like shit that we could scrounge up, like, the monks of Parcheesi piece, whatever we had. This guy's a quarter. We needed something that was roughly 15 feet long on the board. And I had this, I don't even remember what the hell this was from. But yeah, it's a little piece of like a rainbow colored string. So here's like Bob and here's like his tail. And this was just roughly 15 feet on the grid. And he would just sit there and it would just wreck house with this little tiny piece of string. And yeah, because of the nostalgia of that campaign, I've literally held on to a knotted piece of string for, God, 10, I don't even know how many years. Just shy of 18 years, I guess I've held on to this thing, right? 2004. Yeah, 18 years. This little piece of string. Um, do you ever use random tables, or do you purposefully choose each and every ask? No, I use random tables a lot. With magic items, I'll use random tables specifically for encounters pretty frequently. For items, I usually think of those ahead of time because I might come up with an idea for an item, or like a concept of something that I think is really cool for a specific character. Not that I want to like push my characters in a certain direction, like I want my players to play, but like I kind of get sick of when everybody's like a sword and board paladin, right? Long sword and shield. I'd love it if you used a flail. So I'm gonna drop a really cool flail in the game for this person to pick up and see like maybe I can convince them to just to be different, Um, yeah, there has been a lot to cover as well. That is true. I could probably sell what this, the rainbow string mini or the plushie. Because either way, I mean maybe. It would be something if I could get what will be I would be more likely to sell like a Bob mini if I could get my OG group, which I don't think is ever going to happen, and we could replay, like continue that campaign from 18 years ago. You want to talk about clickbaity like videos, like I restarted my campaign after 18 years, like that's a video people are going to watch. Like um yeah, that would do well. Longest campaign you ever ran and how it ended. Well, Bryce, I'm in a weird permanent hiatus situation. So my Everend campaign, which is my homebrew campaign in my homebrew world, ran for I think currently around 122 sessions, about 3 hours each. So even if we were to do one every single week, that's over 2 years right there. But this is really more like a 3 to 4 year campaign with time off and other things in between, right? Um, and it's technically not done. We got closer to finishing it, but one of the players had a lot of real life stuff going on. So we have put the campaign on hiatus until at such a point where that can be finished. So that game is ended, but not really. We're waiting to finish it. Um, so that would probably be the longest campaign I've been in. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. I have a group in Ravenloft. They're level 70 to 20. I'm thinking of offering them a path to Lichdom. Have you done this and ran into any issues? I have not offered a path to Lichdom, though there are several options to do that in 3.5, so you might have an opportunity to look at something like that. It's like RPGs. It's a cool, awesome weapon that you don't use, but it sells well for... Yeah, exactly. Hope one day you're able to start playing games. Yeah, I'm working, Avery. I'm getting I reactivated. I updated some stuff. I plan to bring it back, and you know what's probably going to be a really big instigator? The entire start playing team behind the website is going to be at PAX Unplugged, and I'm going to like I party with those guys pretty hard at every convention, so I will be partying with them at the very least a couple of the nights while I'm down there, and they will more than likely convince me that I need to do some stuff. So probably in the new year for sure. Um, Thank you, Moose. Appreciate it. Any chance we can get a D&D news bulletin? Yeah, I got to work on it. I got to get a graphic designer. Somebody did make me a cool sound effect for it. But I got to get a good graphic for it. So I'm working on it. How did your Dragon Monk thing turn out, by the way? It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that campaign to finish it out. We finished that campaign. We did the whole story. The entire on Nerd Immersion Plays, the secondary channel. You can watch the entirety. It's called Scalebound. The whole thing is out there. You can really just search like Scalebound campaign on Google. You'll find it. So that was a really fun campaign. I enjoyed playing the Dragon Monk quite a bit. I ruined the DM's day a lot with Stunning Strike. And just I rolled really good stats that helped too. And Satyr Monk is pretty solid for like you have all the proficiency in the saving throws eventually, and the advantage versus like spells with being a monk or a satyr. So it was good stuff. What is the best way for you to create a campaign? Do you base it on a boss, a magic item, NPC? So that's tricky for a campaign. Sometimes one of the things that honestly does a lot for me is the minis that I have. Like if I have a really cool mini, that I'm like, ooh, I really want to use this, or I have a really cool series of minis. I'm like, ooh, yeah, I really want to use this. That might get factored into the campaign that way. So, for example, in my homebrew world, I have an area that's basically just full of dinosaurs on the main island. Like, there's an entire town where they use dinosaurs as their beast of burden. Like, they don't have cows in the town. They use, like, Triceratops and Stegosaurus to pull, like, plows. And, like, they don't eat beef or steak. They eat, like, dino meat. Because I have a lot of cool dinosaur minis, and I wanted to use those and allow the players to have access to dinosaurs, druids, and other things. It was cool. I have another area that's kind of like run by a roving pack of centaurs because I have a lot of centaur minis. So that was just like that was part of setting up the world anyway, not necessarily the campaign. But the one campaign that I kind of set up that never really went anywhere, just for one reason or another, I did think of a boss. I thought of how I really like gnolls. And then I was like, well, the leader kind of all the gnolls is Yinagu, the demon lord. So I was like, that will kind of be the idea behind my campaign. And then I'll kind of fit stuff in around it. Thank you, Treant Monk. Appreciate it. I think we need to have a dinosaur subclasses. Yeah, I mean, we kind of got it sort of with the primeval druid, kinda. It felt dinosaurish to me, but I guess it was really supposed to be more giant. There's actually I think it might still be going on. There was a really good Kickstarter about D&D 5e dinosaur related stuff. Um, so yeah, I like dinosaurs a lot. I mean, I don't. This may be a news to some of you, maybe not to all of you, but for the longest time, I wanted to be a paleontologist from like the age of 2 years old till like once I knew what the word paleontology was. I had wanted to be a paleontologist basically my whole life. That's why I have a degree in geology because I went to school because I wanted to become a paleontologist. That obviously didn't pan out, and that's another story, maybe for another time, maybe for tonight, who knows. But yeah, so I have a deep, deep love for dinosaurs. Um, so I'm all about that. Do you have anything that isn't a mini but you use as a mini? Not counting Bob. I have a crystal dragon from the it's a more recent one, but it's a Guild Wars 2 promo from End of Dragons, and it's a crystal dragon. I really like that's probably my favorite crystal dragon mini. That's really nice of Aureen. That's really good. What else do I have I used that's not a mini that I used as a mini? I haven't done much about that recently. In when I used to run my Buffy the Vampire Slayer campaign years and years ago, everybody was just like a random mini. Like one of the characters, I had like a Trunks from Dragon Ball Z mini that I got out of like a White Castle thing. One of the characters was Trunks. Another character was an Ash Ketchum figure from one of the Master Trainer board games. My sister's character was, we called her, originally it was Headless Squidward because she had like some SpongeBob board game and she had like a Squidward mini, but somehow the head got like either cut off or bit off by my dog at the time. So we had like a Headless Squidward. And then eventually we found like a bolt cap that we like screwed on top of it. So then she became Headful Squidward. So that was her. Um, I'm trying to remember, like we had all these like random minis, and that's like, but it was like everybody knew who everybody was. It's like, okay, you're Trunks, you're Headful Squidward, you're the Ash Ketchum mini. I think I had like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer logo from like one of the old Buffy board games. That was my character. It was interesting. I'm running my players up against Gnolls at the moment. They're being commanded by Hobgoblin. Nice. Blue Eyes White Dragon. Yeah, I have a Lugia. That would be a really cool way to do like insert as like a dragon. From like this Heart Soul Silver promo. That'd be pretty cool. Oh, I used to use I had like a long time ago. I don't have the game anymore. I had Whovillopoly, which was a Grinch themed Monopoly. And it came with a lot of like Dr. Seuss looking like little trees, which were like the houses for Monopoly. And I used those a lot as like small little like fern bushes as like terrain pieces. Um, let's see. Uh, yeah, yeah, a rock for a Lugia that could be something. Yeah, I have a lot of Pokemon minis I could do like drop like a Venusaur right on the battlefield. I got Kingler, a handful of Kinglers over here. Put them in there. That's actually why we have there's an entire town in my homebrew world that's basically based all around crabs. And it's because of Kingler. We designed that on a live stream. One of my old lives, like my old when I used to do a world building live stream, we designed that town together, and somehow it ended up starting out from being like just a town that had like a focus on like crabbing and crab related armor into basically the biggest SpongeBob meme of a town. Like the Krusty Krab, and there's like the Red Lobster, read by Larry the Lobster. It's crazy. We're crazy. Are there any NPCs you've created that become a part of a multiverse entity? Can be found in more than one campaign. Um, yes, there have been. I usually will pull an accent. Will make it like a character with an accent. Will make it through multiple ones. I will usually typically make a character sound like Christopher Walken, so that'll be more like that's one thing that'll happen. Um, I'm trying to think. I try sometimes I try to pull characters like I used one of my characters that was my character from my Rada 7 parts in the current Great Mode Run March campaign. I used like a leveled up version of that character to fight in a tournament. That one of my players group was fighting in like a fighting tournament. Like I made that character one of the characters they fought against. Um, we had this character that my one friend made up in one of his campaigns. The very first campaign I played in 5e was Horde of the Dragon Queen, and he made up this character called like Trinky Phil, who was like a really just like weird gnome guy who loved trinkets, and he was like terrifyingly creepy. And we make him pop up like or like references to Trinky Phil, and he was like really like wide eyed and like kind of very spooky, almost like a living doll, kind of like the vibe that he gave off. And he just loved to sell trinkets. Like he would not break eye contact as he like pulled out his trinkets. He's made a couple of appearances or like allusions to that character in other campaigns. Um, Thank you, Stacy. Welcome. No worries. It's We've been doing this for over 2 hours already. This is wild. Um, just hanging out, chatting, doing the thing. Um, have you ever used an old PC to be an NPC? Yeah, my character actually from that Horde of the Dragon Queen campaign that I ran in, his name was Larenthier, and I had my homebrew campaign of Everin, or not of Everin, I'm sorry, of the Know Your Role campaign, which was the Flavortown based Forgotten Realms campaign. I had it take place in the same version of the Forgotten Realms that our Rise of the Dragon Queen campaign had been in, but like 50 years later. Um, so my old character ended up kind of being like the leader of like one of the towns that like he had kind of helped to rebuild post Horde of the Dragon Queen. So he was there, so they got to like meet my character from that. Thank you, Dean. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it's fun to meet familiar NPCs for sure. I like, you see the callbacks to, old stuff, and that character had like kind of a significant other. So like then that character has like a child, like my character had a child, so like the child was helping like running the town now. That was a whole thing. So that was like fun stuff going on with that. Um, but that kind of leads to one of the things that I've been like that concept to what I've kind of been working on. Um, that thing for Jetpack 7 that I do need to do another live stream about, where we kind of do some monster and encounter building with my concept of the Reclaimed, my like entity that I'm designing for them, the Fiend. That basically is the one that's based on Spirit Halloween, where it just takes over existing like recently vacated areas, and like it gains its power by like possessing locations. I think that would be a really good character to like transition between multiple campaigns if the party doesn't specifically seek out to destroy them. Like whatever kind of shop or thing they open in one campaign, a similar thing can pop up in another campaign, like in a different world, because like this is a fiend, they can technically do that. So have I ever blown up a mountainside in D&D and caused a calamitous landslide? Only the one time. And it's funnily enough, I didn't even need to use the mother of all bombs to do it. Working on endgame level 17 boss from the Astral Sea that's supposed to be a martial fighter of sorts. Any advice for stat blocks to use for inspiration? He's still got the Moab. You're right. He does still have the Moab. He never used it. Let's see. From the Astral Sea. Honestly, I know it's kind of cliche, but you probably, from an Astral Sea martial fighter of type, you could use Jedis as inspiration. You want to go crazy, you could use like General Grievous, 4 armed, 4 swords. That could be a really interesting concept. Had I known about like the Spelljammer stuff, I probably would have made my character of Lagwin, who's essentially a Jedi, in our Great Modron Martial Art campaign. I would have made him an astral elf to kind of tie in the more Star Wars vibe of it. Well, that's just me. Yeah, this is I like doing these kind of like chill hangout live streams. It's always a good time. So I do plan to do would I do it again? Definitely. 100%. I would love to. I'd love to actually use the Moab. Get back to that one, finish out that one shot, or whatever. I don't know how long that was, but I would love to use that bomb. One of my characters accidentally created a plague. Well, I mean that could have sweeping effects for the future of the campaign world for sure. uh, but yeah, I do plan to do more live streams in the future of not just like random, like with actual purpose behind them. As much fun as these like chill Q&A live streams that don't have anything behind them, I would like to like set up a more frequent streaming schedule where it's like, hey, we are gonna do we are gonna play a D&D related video game, or we are going to do some world building or some encounter design or I don't know, something. Thank you, Jesse. Any character you had to create slash update from one edition to another? I haven't, and that would be a really cool concept. I tried to do that actually because I was trying to see if I could bring my druid specifically, right, the one we were talking about with Bob the crocodile, like to fifth edition, and there's just not a good way to do it because, and part of it I think is just purely the changes in the way the system is designed, right? Because like druids, a base feature of druids in 3.5 was an animal companion, and like I didn't really focus too much on like probably what I used the most as my druid was I focused more um actually I really kind of ran the gamut, right? Like I cast spells, but I also wild shaped a lot and then I used my animal companion. So, unfortunately, there isn't really a druid that exists in 5e that replicates that well. There's like I could do land druid and focus more on the spell casting aspect. I could do moon druid and focus more on the shape shifting wild shape aspect. And the closest thing to like a pet version is the primeval class, but I don't particularly love it. I think it's kind of it's close. It's like so close to being really good, but it just needs like a couple of tweaks to give it a little more something. And that was like the closest one to like I could do my best to replicate having Bob in the game. Thank you, Blue. Appreciate it. Um, one of my characters accidentally cured a plague before it became a plague, and I ruined the DM's plans for a story arc. Yeah, I have a story time thing written over here on my whiteboard. I want to do a story time about the time my players ruined my campaign. Did I ever go double alligator? No, but I did multi-classed into Tamer of Beasts. So at the end of that campaign, I had a pet alligator, two wolves, an eagle, a brown bear, and a wolverine. And my turn sucked for everybody else. Um, when it comes to making your paladin, what subclass feats, magical items would you use? Um, well, I say probably the biggest thing that would be the most tricky for me would be what are my ability scores like, because that had helped to dictate what I could and couldn't do. As far as like feats and other things, I'm trying to see. Did I have my character built out so that I could show you? No. I feel like I have him somewhere. I could just show you that character. Um, let's see. I have a version of him as level 11 over here. Let's see. Is this the right one? Ability scores. I actually think this is the one. Yeah. Let me show you. I'll show you exactly what I did as far as Paladin goes. I have at least through to level 12. Resilient constant. Actually, for this character, improvement feat, shield master. Alert. All right, so this is not the final version of that character, but let's see. This is very close to the character that I played in that campaign. Let's see what. Oh no, this is from a different campaign, but I had some other stuff. This is very close to that character though. This is very close, like I said. I had with my character in my Rise of Tiamat campaign, these are very, like I said, some of the numbers are slightly off, but something close to this. And I had focused on making sure I got my charisma to 20 so I could boost up all of my saving throws. That character had an 18 constitution, but he had a belt of dwarven kind is how he got it. He had a necklace of prayer beads. That was a magic item that he had. He just had like a simple +1 longsword. And I went half elf Oath of the Ancients. And then, yeah, because of the different auras and abilities and things you had, I had Shield Master, I had Alert, Resilient Constitution, and then eventually with this character, I actually multi-classed into Bard for I think 4 levels, maybe 3 levels to get to Lore Bard, so that I could get a bunch of skill proficiencies, get some more Bard spells, cantrips, and I kind of did. I think I even did a video on this actually. Let me see. I think I'm pretty sure I did. I don't know if the content still exists, like for the character sheet, because I think I probably deleted that. But oh yeah, I did. Here it is. The Blues Brothers Paladin build right here from 2 years ago. That was my that was my what I had decided how I was gonna play off the kind of paladin bard aspect. Was, I'm on a mission from God, and that's what this build was about. So you can learn more about it from that video. Would you or would you not ever play a wizard who uses a deck of spell cards instead of a spell book? Would you describe at great length the effect of each spells when cast? I would love to do that, Falcon. That sounds great. Technically, you can just get a sidekick and have them be your animal. That's the closest way I could do it. Would be probably to do Bob would be have a sidekick, and have a sidekick animal companion of a crocodile, and then be a land druid probably. When you build a character, do you typically start with a character concept and choose a class to fit, or start with a class and make a character? Probably the latter, right? I would like a lot of the times for me, I'll choose a concept of either a class or like something I haven't done. So in my current campaign, which is a kind of a joke to say current campaign, considering we started on October 11th and we've played twice. I'm playing a rogue because I've always wanted to play a rogue, and I never got the opportunity to do so. And there's the One D&D stuff to playtest, so that's where that character came from. And then the concept with the monk I played more recently was like I really just liked the idea of the dragon monk. I thought it was really cool. I preferred the Unearthed Arcana version over the final version because I liked it had the aura, which gave me very much dragon shaman vibes, which is one of my favorite classes from 3.5 that just didn't really make its way to 5e in any kind of greater form. So I usually kind of will come up with a concept, either like a build concept or and I've been burnt before on like building out really, really in-depth crazy character backstories where I did all this stuff and then like the character, we never really went anywhere with it, either the background or the character's like story wasn't ever used or something like that, and I felt like I wasted time coming up with it. So instead of that, I kind of focus more on like the mechanical sides of things first, and then backfill in the role play story aspects because as needed, right? Because like I've been in situations where like it doesn't really matter what my character's backstory is. This DM has a story that they want to tell, or I want to just be a part of it, so I don't really care. But if they ask me, then I'll kind of have stuff fleshed out, ready to go. Dennis, I've played 2 campaigns in D&D, both were fighters. What would you recommend if I want to try a spellcaster? If you want to go full spellcaster, I would say cleric or druid, because depending on the cleric, I'd say cleric, because if you're gonna go full caster, cleric, you can still choose one that can be martially if you want to have that, still scratch that itch. But if you want to kind of take a step in between, I would say Paladin, because that'll still get you some of the fun of being a martial character while also allowing you to dabble in spellcasting and see if it's for you. It's also one of the best designed sub or classes in all of 5th edition. Thank you, Matthew, for the congratulations. Appreciate it. So, yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I've been having a good time, and surprisingly, in that whole time, I only ate the one cookie. Um, Never play a fighter in 5e. What do you think of Battlemaster? I'm playing with one again in a campaign that's kind of few and far between. But I do think Battlemaster is closer to what I would want to. If I was gonna play a fighter, and like I had to be stuck in what exists in 5e, not like expanding out into homebrew related stuff. I think, and like I was pretty limited. I think Battlemaster would be the closest to something that I would want to do because the concept of the maneuvers give me a little more to play with, a little more abilities and things I'm able to use. I prefer paladins because I still, like I said, I get that martial ability, but I still get some healing. I get some spell casting. I can kind of cater things to a situation, which I prefer. And I feel like with if I was just straight up, I hit the thing with my sword every turn without like any kind of some unique factor, I think I might get bored. Um, Rune Knight would probably be a good way to do it. Also, the Psy Knight or whatever the Psy Knight one could be fun. That's also very Jedi ish. They seem like they have some unique abilities that kind of might make them more fun. Like gives you options, gives you things to use rather than like a champion fighter. I feel like it's pretty boring, right? I swing my sword, I hope for a crit. What is the worst class besides Ranger? Warlock, not Hexblade, just straight up Warlock. That's what I'd say. Hmm. I um Hexblade is not. I don't consider really Hexblade to be a warlock because it's kind of its own animal. If you've ever played a warlock and like there's that real long grind between level 2 and level 11 where you have 2 spell slots. And if you're not playing in a party that doesn't have a lot of use for short rests, like you are the reason we need to take short rests. Um and like and honestly, for many many levels, your best thing you can do is casting a cantrip. It's a damn good cantrip. But I think Warlock needs an overhaul. At the very least, they need more spell options. Even though you're limiting them on slots, I think more spell options would be good. Um, but yeah, I don't love Warlock. It's great for multi-class Warlock into some or like something else with Warlock for short rest, recharge spell slots for things like smiting or whatever else. But um, Paladins are not restrictive in this edition. They don't even technically need to worship a god if you don't want to. They can just worship an ideal. Um, Paladin, if you're used to old edition Paladins, like I didn't even look at the Paladin in 5th edition initially because I was like, oh, Paladins, I don't want to be stuck on what I can do. And then I was like, oh, no, wait, way better. Thank you, Fender Slasher. What's wrong with a good nap? Nothing. I could use a good nap, being honest. Falcon, I'm not surprised that you love being the inconvenience. I'm really not. Um, yeah, the way they're changing the stuff for 1D&E, the concept of preparing, like people have mentioned, I think Eldritch Blast is going to go back to being a class feature like it was in 3.5. I think that'll go a long way. House of Chick-fil-A, I like it. Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been in a party where we short rest as many times as we can because everybody gets stuff back on a short rest. And I've also been in parties where unless somebody's really mangled and needs the extra hit points, we just never take them. You know, it's just really dependent on um, the comp of the party, really. We talked a little bit about it earlier, so I won't dive too much into the changes with the marshals, but the concept of possibly taking the maneuvers and making them just a thing everybody can use, or in some aspect. I think that'll probably be the big one. Let's see. Do I have the book here that we can look at? Let's see. Um, don't I have it somewhere? What's my projected success rate on a party of bards? One from each school. Very high. I think Bard is all like as far as like best design classes, I think Bard is another one that's very strong. And some of the different Bard classes can do so much together. Like, I mean, I would say I'd probably take like Swords Bard, Lore Bard, Eloquence Bard, maybe Spirits or oh god, what the hell's the other one? Or Creation. I think Creation is one of them. Let me look at the bard types real quick. And you have a lot of interesting uses for bardic inspiration that would provide a bunch of options. Yeah, I would say swords, lore. I think it's eloquence. Um, yeah, might or glamour maybe for the movement and the temporary hit points. You could do a lot with that. I think you could actually do a very good chime, and the concept of like a traveling band could be very interesting. Mm. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with Renwick. He was definitely not the character that they had expected. Um, he was Christopher Walken. So, all right, here. Let's let's do this. So here's the 3/5 Warlock. This is very tiny in an eye test, but let's just scroll down and take a look. All right, we got a D6 hit die. Could be any evil or chaotic alignment. But you see this right here? Again, this is going to be gibberish for a lot of folks. But Eldritch Blast was a class feature that leveled up every other level. It did a d6 damage and it leveled up every other level. You had various invocations known, and then that's kind of where your magic came from, right? So, Warlock does not prepare cast spells as other wielders of arcane magic. Instead, they possess a repertoire of attacks, defenses, and abilities known as evocations. Warlock can use any invocation at will with the following qualifications. Spell-like ability, the save DC is whatever. There are 4 grades of invocations in order for their relative power are least, lesser, greater, and dark. They begin with knowledge of 1 invocation, which must be of the lowest grade, and it kind of levels up. Okay. Eldritch Blast has a ray with a range of 60 feet, range touch attack against a single target. It does a d6 points of damage at first level and increases in power as equivalent of a first level spell. If you apply a blast shape or eldritch essence to it, you can change it around. And then you can see they got detect magic at will. They got damage reduction. They can do more stuff with magic items. They got resilience here, as we got around here, getting us fast healing, energy resistance, and then eventually here they could create magic items. And then there were a variety of variants, so we can kind of skip over the different variants here. Do we not have invocations on this? I think it said it would have them, but I don't know if it's here. Warlock invocations page. here a variety of them, right? We can just look at the high level descriptions. These are the lowest level ones. These are all the invocation options here, right? This is the 3/5 Warlock for folks who are looking. So these were all the lowest level ones you had options from. Now you can see some of these are from Complete Arcana, which is, that's CAR over here. That's where it came from, but you can also see they added more as time went on, right? We have things like making people sicken or shaken, so consider more things like frightened or maybe restrained. Increase the range to 250. Melee attacks, you can hit somebody with a melee attack and then shoot the blast out, right? Shatter stuff, we had, skill related things, fog cloud, bonus to saving throws, darkness. See normally in magical darkness. See some of these you'll even recognize. Using different spells, deflect incoming attacks, gain bonuses to different things, summon swarms, gain spider climb, speak with animals. And this here was just the list of least invocations. And you can see there's all of the lesser ones that could let you change the damage type and do different things. Then there were greater ones that you could do here, and then even the dark ones at the end, which could be really wild stuff, right? So your touch can break enchantment, you can counterspell, like all sorts of crazy stuff, right? There's all these options of what you could do. And you had up to, I think, 12 invocations. And you could get more as you leveled up. You could also see you had different kinds of damage resistance. And they even had some options with later on where you could trade your invocations for things like draconic invocations from like the Dragonfire Adept, which allow you could potentially to project like auras and things. But my point of this is the 3/5 Warlock, because this wasn't even a base class that existed. This thing came much later in Complete Arcana. But Eldritch Blast was a feature that they just got as they leveled up, and it got stronger as they leveled up. So I do think with One D&D that was what we're going to see when it comes to Eldritch Blast, is that it will become a class feature that the Warlock gains, not just like a spell that or cantrip that anybody who has access to can take. It was fun to play the Warlock because there was a lot. I mean, some of the most fun you'd have in 3/5 was because of the multi-classing and the prestige classes. So you could do a lot of, like, because of certain abilities that it would give you, you could dip into other things. Again, I've talked about prestige classes in the past, but subclasses essentially took the role of prestige classes, which was, this was the base class, and you could play this from level 1 to 20. You could multi-class as you normally would, or you could take, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of prestige classes, which were usually a class that went from anywhere from 3 levels up to sometimes 10 levels or more. And you needed to have certain prerequisites to enter it. And instead of leveling in Warlock, you would level in the prestige class. But some of them would do things like you might level in a prestige class that says like it will continue to, or you might take a feat or something that's like, this is another crazy thing where you could take a feat that's like, say you're like multi-classing Warlock with Wizard, let's say, there would be like a feat that would say like, okay, it basically, you combine the levels for determining the damage your Eldritch Blast does. So even though you stopped leveling in Warlock and started leveling as Wizard, you would combine the total. So if you were level 14 between the two, your Eldritch Blast would do 7d6 instead of whatever it capped out at when you transitioned away. Same thing with subclasses, right? Or prestige classes, rather. Some of them would say, like, you progress your Eldritch Blast, or you can progress your Invocation Notice or levels. So, like, you weren't losing stuff, but you could choose to focus in a very specific avenue, which was something really cool. I don't remember the one that lets you heal with Eldritch Blast, but I remember, God, is it Adept of the Skin? Is that it? Maybe it was Blood Mage. There was one that basically, it might have been Blood Mage, I forget, that a Warlock I thought was a good fit for. And all I remember was one of the high level abilities of it was you could jump into someone's physical body and then teleport through to somebody else and exit out of their body like a human-sized chest burster and just do a ton of damage to people. And that I thought was really cool. Uh, thanks, Kugo. I do think multi-classing works relatively well in 5e as it stands. Yeah, I have to pull up all my 3.5 books, but that might have been the Blood Mage. I can't remember. It was Adept to the Skin, or it might have been Blood Mage. I think you're probably right. The Blood Mages? Is that it? Monculus. Yeah, I think that was Blood Mage. It was 10 level prestige class. Yeah, I think it is. At 10th level, a Blood Magus becomes perfectly attuned to the Song of the Blood. They gain the supernatural ability to transport themselves great distances via the blood of living creatures. Once per day as a standard action that does not provoke attacks of opportunity, they can seamlessly enter any living creature whose size equal to or exceeds their own and pass any distance to another living creature on the same plane in a single round, regardless of the distance between them. They merely designate a direction and a distance. A living creature within 20 miles due west of here, and the Bloodwalk ability transports them to a destination. He can't specify a named individual. The entry and destination creatures need to not be familiar with them either. They cannot use themselves as an entry point. If an intended creature is unwilling, they must make a touch attack to enter. When exiting a creature, a Blood Mage chooses an adjacent square in which to appear. Entering and exiting a creature is painless unless a Blood Mage wishes otherwise. See below. In most cases, though, the destination creature finds being the endpoint of a magical portal surprising and quite unsettling. If he desires, a Blood Magus can attempt to make a bloody exit from the destination. They burst forth explosively from the creature's body, dealing 10d6 points of damage unless they make a Fortitude save, which would be a Constitution saving throw. When they make the bloody exit, a Blood Magus must succeed on a DC 14 save or be stunned for 1 round from the shock of their expulsion. And there was, I don't know if they don't have it, but there was art that showed them jumping in on like one page and like exiting on another page. It was wild. But see, like this, like to enter it, you needed to have all this, right? Concentration 4 ranks, great fortitude, toughness feats, arcane caster 5th level, and they must have been killed and then returned to life. And then it would do all these different things, right? You could use your own blood to do casting, better at concentrating on spells. You automatically become stable at 0 hit points. Yeah. Create a homunculus. It, yeah. You get damage resistance because your blood's so thick. I don't know. It was just a lot of fun. Like, that's like a very odd, specific thing that stuck out in my mind. It's like a thing you could do. And like, there were obviously with the descriptions that we talked about, like multiple classes could have had the opportunity to enter into this prestige class. I just thought Warlock made a lot of sense. Yeah, the feats were garbage, but the flavor was there. So either way, you get the point. Like, you could focus very specifically, and like some of them, and it was also interesting because you could get into certain things different ways, right? Like, you could, like, it might be easy to just do one as like a cleric, but it could be easy, like you could also do one possibly as like a paladin with a certain feat would allow you to qualify to enter into a specific prestige class. But yeah, it was pretty cool stuff. I enjoyed it a lot. I agree. I miss, and also don't miss 3.5. It has its benefits. I would like to play it again, just to do it. There were talks about one of my friends running one for us at one of these conventions. Celeste was going to, from the Venture Maidens, was gonna run a 3.5 campaign, just like a one shot, and I was very torn on what to play because I never got a chance to play Dragonfire Adept until after I learned what it was, and then I was gonna be obviously super cheesy and be like a super old kobold, but take the dragon rot feat so that I could have +3 to my intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, but no negative because I was an old kobold, that kind of thing. But that's just for the nerds who love 3.5. They'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah. Ability focus for your first feat. Well, I also do flaws, right? So you'd take like shaky and non-combatant since you weren't using melee or ranged attacks because neither of those counted for like your Dragonfire adept attacks because it was a breath weapon. So you'd have like a -2 to melee attacks and -2 to ranged attacks, but you get 2 free feats at level 1. Anyway. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Everybody here's awesome. So natural 20 for all of you. But yeah, I think I'm starting to feel, I probably could use some more coffee, but I think I'm starting to feel my energy drain slightly here. I can feel it happening. So I think I'm going to use this as an opportunity at just shy of 3 hours to end this awesome live stream hanging out with everybody here. I have a long day tomorrow of working on my bathroom that I'm building. So I'm building a bathroom right over there. I also need to buy a new water heater. I don't need to, but I want to because there's promotions from where I'm at. So I can get a lot of discounts. So I got to buy a new water heater so I can hook that up. Oh, and as part of my deal, when I bought my new phone, I got a free tablet. So I have to go buy a case for a new tablet, which is cool. So, ooh, Hot Ones challenge. Do I stream often? Not as often as I'd like. But I do, on a typical week, I would stream Tuesday and Thursday night gameplay. I'm playing currently in a Greek mythology themed campaign that's supposed to happen on Tuesdays. It hasn't really happened in a while, but we'll see. And then I am playing in a Great Modron March campaign, which is an update of the 2nd edition adventure to 5th edition that my good friend Jordan of with the silent PH in the middle of internet fame as Jordan with the silent PH in the middle is DMing for me on Thursdays. As far as like streams with it's just me and you guys, they kind of come few and far between. I do reaction live streams when Wizards of the Coast is going to do some sort of an announcement. I've been doing live streams when One D&D stuff comes out. But other than that, I like to do more of these where we kind of not necessarily Q&As, or maybe we'll do monthly Q&A streams. I'm not sure. I got to figure stuff out. But yeah. So, yeah, I was, well, for anybody who's wondering, I'll just tell you, not that I can say it'll be the same wherever you live because people are asking about it. So I went to Verizon because that's the provider I have. I traded in my old phone for a new phone. So not that I say this is that kind of a stream, but either way, I got this phone for free. They're sending me a coupon to my email that gets me Galaxy earbuds for free. And I got this internet connected tablet also for free. And it's going to cost me $3 a month to have internet on this thing. So that was a pretty good solid deal at Verizon today for Black Friday. It might still be going on. Good luck. Also, it apparently works for Apple products too. Like if you trade in to get the new iPhone, you get an iPad too. Like crazy stuff. I don't know if it's AirPods as the free earbuds, but I know I'll get Galaxy Buds 2 for free with a coupon in the mail or in my email. So. Oh, and I also got the whole free year of Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu Plus, all that too. It's a wild times, man. Black Friday is my favorite time of the year. I love shopping. So, anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I will watch Andor. I have not done it, and I've been really turned off by Star Wars lately, so I will be doing that. Thank you everybody for the congratulatory comments. I really sincerely I'm blown away by the support that everyone has shown the channel over the past just couple of weeks. So I'm going to try to add some more conventions to the docket in 2023 so I can possibly get out around to some places and meet some more folks. But yeah, if you're going to be at PAX Unplugged, find me and say hi. So Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.